Welcome and thanks for joining us for our NFL Week 16 preview here at Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover. A little bit of a different start to the episode this week as we've got a special guest and a special guest for an interview. We are joined by Andy Davies. Andy, we've been trying to pin down for the last couple of weeks, but he's been gallivanting all across the world. Andy is a journalist that covers NFL, also Premier League football as well. And we thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to sit down and talk some NFL. And we'll touch on his team Liverpool as well, just a little bit. We'll touch on his team Liverpool as well in the Premier League. But Andy, welcome to Good Teams and Great Teams Cover. Thanks ever so much for coming to join us for our Week 16 preview show.
Thank you, mate. Great to be on. Looking forward to the episode.
Good stuff. Andy, so I first reached out to Andy, and this has probably been kind of mid to end of October. So if Andy seems familiar, you recognise his face or his handle that we'll post. Andy completed a challenge not too long ago, and that challenge was to visit and watch a game in every single NFL stadium, all 30 of them. Andy ticked them off and finished that, as I say, back was it back at the end of October?
It was November 19th.
November 19th, so it was 4 weeks ago. It feels like so much longer.
But it feels longer. It feels like that happened 3 months ago. It doesn't feel like it's only a month away. It feels a lot longer than that.
And unbelievable. I think it was just such a real interesting story. And the fact from what I could see that you covered the majority of them quite quickly. Kind of tell us about that whole experience, Andy, and kind of how did it become like a bit of a, when did it turn into, I need to get to every single ground and I need to tick them all off and it become a bit of a challenge?
Yeah, so never really. I always thought to myself one day when I started watching the NFL properly. For years, I was just a guy who checked the scores and watched the highlights on YouTube, and that was it. But then when I started watching it for years and years, it was never really something I had in mind then. It was always a case where, I'll go to a game once in my life, go to a game in America. I'd always love to go to one game in America, that's it. And I did go to a game in 2019. I did go to Patriots Chiefs, and originally my plan was to go with a certain company that offers you these packages, but I looked at the cost and I realized that actually I can do a lot cheaper by myself. I don't need to pay for a company to do it for me. I can pay for the Airbnb. I can pay for the flight and for a much cheaper option. I was lucky that Boston is cheap to get to in December. It's like $250 for a return, which I couldn't believe, with Virgin as well. I don't know whether it's a special deal, whether Boston is just cheap to get to, but I did Patriots, Chiefs, Brady against Mahomes. The aim was just, I want to see Brady play before he retired. I thought, I've got to see greatness before he retired. That's why I saw LeBron James play recently. I thought, I want to see the best players of all time play in these sports. I'm lucky to have seen Messi and Ronaldo play. So for me, I wanted to try and see Brady play live. And that was really it. The plan was to go to the game. Thought nothing of it. I thought, go to this game, maybe go to one or two more in my life, and that's it. And then in 2020, I spoke to a guy called Jacob Barnell, who broke the world record for going to every game in the quickest time. I think it was 83 days he did it, which is a phenomenal achievement. So I interviewed him for an article, and that sort of gave me a little bit of inspiration. And I just worked throughout lockdown. I was lucky to work pretty much from January 2021 for most of that time. Then from then until I went to uni in September. So I worked for like 6-7 months. We're still working. I worked in NHS. I do still do now work for NHS doing admin. So it gave me that chance to keep working and save money because I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't seeing friends. I wasn't paying for holidays. I wasn't paying for anything really, apart from the occasional item of clothing online. So the money was just coming in, and I thought to myself, you know what? If I just keep saving, I could probably do this. So I had a set amount in mind, and then could have done it a lot quicker if I'd not gone to university, because that sort of set my money back a little bit, but then I made that back through working. So the plan was originally to go to uni, do my master's in sports journalism after doing the trip. But it got to like July 2021. I thought things still aren't reopening. Things aren't, you can't go to America, you can't go to places still. So I thought, I'll hold it off for a year. I'll do my year-long master's course in Brighton, get that done, and then do it. So literally, planned it all. Once the schedule came out in May 22 for the upcoming season, I then planned out my trip. And then, just made sure I had the money there, already saved up. So for me, it's just a matter of just waiting. Now I just booked all the flights, all the Airbnb pretty much within a month. So I'm not the kind of guy who can do it spontaneously. I like to have everything booked in advance. I'm a bit OCD like that. I can't have things done last minute. So everything was booked. Airbnbs, tickets, and flights were all booked by early July. So it was all set. And that was again, it wasn't a plan to do all 30. And I did 21 in 3 months. It was just planned to just try and see as much as I can in 3 months and go to the places I wanted to see, the stage I wanted to see. So yeah, I did 21 then, and I got to 22, and then I sort of got thinking literally within a month of going back from the UK, I thought, you know what, I could probably get all 30 done next season. So again, I waited then until May this year when the schedule came out, and that's why I then planned the rest of my trip. I had about 6, 7, 8 to go. We were already going to Arizona and San Fran anyway, because we had a rearranged trip from 2020 to go to there in Vegas and all that. So they already planned, but then I just planned the rest. And when I saw there were 2 in the same day that were doable by train and time-wise of the games, I thought, I've got to do that as well. I've done that in football before. I've seen Monaco play, and I've seen Marseille play at home on the same day. And I've watched, I think I watched Venezia against Roma and Inter against AC San Siro in the same day. So I've done it in football before, so I know it's doable. So I did that with Baltimore and Philadelphia, and then got the rest of it done. Was very skinned by the end, but managed to get all 30 done. And it was really surreal seeing NFL UK put a post about it, seeing the likes of OC Manura like the post, Christian Wade like the post, and a few others. It was it was really surreal thinking I'd done it. I remember Stadium 30 was Cleveland. So I remember being in First Energy Stadium thinking, wow, when the national anthem played and the game was on, I'm thinking, wow, I've actually done this. You always think about travel could have affected it, or planes could be delayed, etc. But for me to say it was all done was just, it felt surreal, because now it's the case where I've got no more plans to see stadiums since I've locked in. So for me, it was an incredible moment for me, an incredible achievement, and I know not many guys have done it or girls have done it. So for me, it was just a surreal experience that I would love to do all over again.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a really, really cool story, and the opportunity, the meticulous planning, I guess, because I'd be the opposite of you in terms of I'd be very much fly by the seat of my pants trying to do that, and it would all potentially come crashing around. So the planning and everything that goes into it. I will ask you. So I guess we've touched on it a little bit. You're if you're not watching on the YouTube, you're listening on Spotify. Andy's there in his Miami Dolphins jersey. So. Apart from the Miami and Hard Rock Stadium and the Dolphins, because you potentially be a little bit biased that may have been your favourite. Which of the other 29 stadiums? Which ones? And hard to pick, I guess. But which was your favourite experience, or the stadium, the city?
This is going to surprise you. I actually don't rate our stadium that highly. I did an episode actually with Nathan from Highway Sports where we ranked all 30 stadiums from 30 to 1. I think I had it maybe 11th or 12th because I think if I wasn't a Dolphin fan, I have it like maybe 20th or 21st. I don't think it's the worst. I don't think it's the best stadium in the world. Excuse me a second. Yeah, I don't think it's the best stadium in the world, but I don't think it's the worst. I think there's far worse. But I think at the same time, there are much better stadiums to look at. When you see that Aqua filled stadium in the heat, it does look cool on the TV. And when I was there, atmosphere was terrible, but to be in your team stadium for the first time, watching your team, albeit lose, that was really cool experience. I loved that one. That was something I really enjoyed because, since I became a fan, I always wanted to see him play. And I think my first game live was against the Jags in London 21. And I see him playing in Cincinnati and LA. But I think the Miami one was particularly special for that reason. And but my favorite one, I think, has to be Lambeau Field. Nice. My favorite going into this tour was Soldier Field. I loved watching on TV. I've always said that if I'd pick my team before actually watching a game, if I'd watched a game for the NFL for a whole season without a team, I would have by far picked the Bears because I loved Chicago. I loved Soldier Field. When I went there, it was massively underwhelming. But for me, Lambeau Field was my favorite overall pound for pound. If you take in atmosphere, how it looks, the whole day experience, overall pound for pound, I'd probably say that is my favourite because the history you've got there. I mean, the stadium's very old school. You've got aluminium seats. It's one of the only ones that have been, I think it always will be because it's fan owned, kept as an old school stadium. It won't be modified or anything like that. So that was really cool. We got a bit of snow as well. Actually went with Ash in the NFL, which is nice I've met her a few times now, and that was really cool to experience it with her. And had a bit of snow in the air. That was unbelievable. Atmosphere-wise, nothing beats Arrowhead. Chiefs against Raiders. I've been to I'd say, atmosphere-wise, I've been to Marseille, Nice, and Marseille. I've been to a Dortmund game. I put the Warriors game I went to in San Francisco up there, but nothing even comes close in any game I've been to in any sporting capacity. Nothing comes close to Arrowhead, what I experienced that day. It was Monday Night Football, prime time as well, which I think helped, but that was by far the best for atmosphere. I think by some way. I think Philadelphia was probably second, maybe Buffalo's third, but for atmosphere, it's the gap between 1 and 2 is literally like that. It's nothing else. From the tomahawk chop to Kelsey scored 4 touchdowns that day, and it was just a fantastic game as well. I think they were losing and they came back, and they just turned it on, and it was just that is just something that I can't describe how good it is. And I'll say to anyone, if you can go to any NFL stadium, if you like your atmosphere, if you want a rowdy stadium that's loud, it's atmosphere all good throughout the whole game, please go at that Arrowhead if you can. It's spectacular. But I did love Lumen Field, Seattle. That was the best. I think the best stadium I went to for how it looks is that or US Bank. I mean, just to look at the stadium and how it looks, that was just fantastic. And I was in the bit with the 12s as well, which was fantastic experience. Yeah. It was warm. It didn't rain, which is unlike Seattle. It was warm, 20 odd degrees. It was my first actual stadium on that trip I went to last year. What way to start? It was just it's one of those rare ones where you've got the atmosphere and the stadium size. It was a big stadium and it had the atmosphere. Seahawks Falcons. That's one I really hold close to my heart is that one, because that was just a really, really cool experience. There were some that really underwhelmed me, but this one, took me by surprise even more than I knew it already would.
Yeah, I think there's something there, and you've got to get, when you're planning those trips, it's like that. A huge factor of it's kind of where the team is at that point, the week that you go in. I mean, look, if you'd have gone this week, and if you'd have been in Carolina, if you'd planned to be in Carolina this week, where you could have got in for 45 cents, and there was about 1,500 people there. I mean, but just, so there's a lot that depends on kind of what, what's going on with the team at the time. So you've got to get a bit lucky with it, I guess, haven't you? But yeah, just just amazing experiences. I love how they put like real traditional places there, Lambeau, Soldier Field, and Chiefs to an extent, Arrowhead to an extent as well. Not necessarily some of the flashier places, but yeah. Fantastic that you had the opportunity to do that, and yeah, just a wonderful experience.
Yeah. I mean, what I will say as well, that I'm lucky that I actually got to do a lot of stuff that wasn't even sport related. So, for example, got to go on the Space Needle in Seattle, Empire State Building in New York, did the whole New York experience. Like Kansas City, I didn't see much of. Same as Carolina and all that. But when I got to go to Graceland in Memphis when I'd gone past Carolina, I was in Tennessee, got to do the whole Tennessee, go to live music and all that. And I think that what thing I will say to everyone is that I, albeit it's great going to all these stadiums, but to get to see the Rocky Mountains and do all the stuff that isn't even to do with the sport and just see America was great as well. I mean, it was just, I tried to do roughly, I think, 4 days in each place. Some like overnight stay, like Kansas City, I got there like 2 a.m. I was gone by 6 a.m. the next day. And there were some places where I just skimmed through. Cleveland was the same. But with, I was so lucky to be able to do so much that wasn't even to do with the sport, was something that again, made the trip even more special for me. And it was probably the best 3 months of my life. It was just something I will never, ever forget, if I'm honest. And even if I get older, I'll look back at those photos and those videos and go, wow, I actually did that.
Yeah, really, really cool. And yeah, congrats for getting it done. Like I say, it takes a lot, it's not just the enjoyment of going doing it, it's getting there and the planning and everything you work to go get it done. Speaking of some of the things that you work at, so you mentioned you have a day job with still working with the NHS, but a huge part of what you do is so writing, sports journalist, geared around the NFL and, as we mentioned, football, Premier League as well. How did that kind of journey start for you, and where did kind of your interest start in writing about the sport, writing about the NFL, and how did you get into it in the first place?
For me, I remember even as a child, I wanted to be a journalist. I mean, I think like any boy, really, you grow up wanting to be a footballer. I grew up age of 5 or 6, wanted to be a striker for Liverpool. My Michael Owen shirt, just dreaming of as a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever it was, dreaming of being a footballer. But then I quickly realized, like a lot of people probably do, that you're never going to make it. And I've spent years in school, being picked last in PE, and I was always on the bench in school, and I tried multiple times for my town and also my and my school, and I was never ever getting in. With my brother was playing for the town and all that playing for school at a high level. But for me, I always thought to myself, you know what, if I can't play the sport for a living, why not find a different way to do it? So for me, it was always, I think the dream started maybe year 9 or year 10. I remember I wanted to be a estate agent for a year or two. But when I was like, I think year 9, year 10, I started to think, you know what, I'd love to be a sports agent. Might go to games, go to the event, write about it. Did work experience in my local paper for school in year 10. You did all that. Then I got to I think it was parents' evening in year 12, and I mentioned that I wanted to do journalism as a degree in uni. And someone mentioned about, it's a lot of unpaid work, it's competitive, and you might not even get any. And that scared, as a 17-year-old at the time, it scared the life out of me. So I held it off for years. I completely backtracked my plans. I did a law degree in uni. That was I changed plans. I wanted to be a lawyer for a few years. I wanted to go into that. And then, hated my degree. I got the degree, but I hated it. And I knew within a month or two of starting at a law firm that I did. That's not a job for me. I had a horrible time at a law firm. It wasn't for me. I wasn't enjoying it, and my stress and mental health was at a low because I wasn't enjoying my job. I was going to work every day, not enjoying it. So I left that job and went into car insurance claims for 18 months, and then it was while still working in car insurance claims, I literally just saw a post on the NFL UK Facebook page saying we're starting a new website, or we're looking for writers for a website. Who wants? And I thought, you know what? I used to like writing back in the day. I'm just going to give it a go. So, yeah, I started writing as a hobby. Initially about just football. That was initially about just football, and then started then doing NFL. And for a while, it was just a hobby, nothing more than that. And then when lockdown came about, when COVID came, I had more free time on my hands, and I started having more responsibility at a formal website. So I started writing at least an article a day, sometimes 2 a day, and then weekends it was spent, especially when there's no games on, just writing articles 2 or 3 a day. And that's when I really got my thirst back for writing. And that was really the point where I started to realize, actually, you know what? I still do want to be a journalist. And I always toyed the idea of doing it again. And, I'd started doing podcasts as well. And I started getting into the routine of, actually, I could do this living. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I'd much rather be 60 years old and have tried it and failed than be 60 years old and wonder what if, and have a job I've hated and just coast through life with having not gone for my dreams, basically. So that's why I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a sports journalism master's. And that's when someone mentioned about an NCTJ, getting a gold standard diploma, which is basically the gold ticket towards getting jobs at big companies. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I was torn between Liverpool and Brighton. As I said before, I had a plan of doing it after traveling, but then it got to June and I had to make my mind up, and I knew I wasn't going to go traveling that year. So yeah, that's when I decided I'm going to choose Brighton because I thought it'd just be a nice place to live, even though it would have been great living in Liverpool, especially that season, which turned out to be a quadruple chasing season. Brighton was, I can't speak highly of Brighton. It was such a nice place to live, and it was by the seaside, nice weather, sunny. I think it's got one of the least days of rain on average per year in the UK. It was a great place, a great experience. I've never been to Brighton anytime before. So for me, did my sports journalism masters, got some great experience then. I did live talk sport 2 on air with Nat Coombs, got to do some live TV football commentary, and it just went strength from strength, really. Just kept writing articles. The actual university, you could argue maybe didn't do enough sport-related modules, but even so, great to experience that, great to get some practice in. And then, went traveling and came back and just been back and forth from the UK, but just kept on writing. And I was very lucky to get the London Games accreditation this year. So that was an amazing experience. Hopefully that is the start of the rest of my career now.
Yeah, I think so. And clearly, obviously, you've put in so much time, a lot of work, and that's the start of something. I know you mentioned off air. Fingers crossed, maybe get the accreditations to go to the Super Bowl, and we've got everything crossed for you. It'd be great to see you go. But yeah, the start of a bright career, and I think it just goes to show, right? Obviously, if you want something bad enough, as long as you commit to it, you can get there, no matter kind of what's happened along the way.
I think one thing I will say is that, albeit I'm well aware that I've still got a long way to go in terms of making it big, but I remember my master's degree. There's people there. They came straight from undergrad to postgrad, and they did they're a lot they're undergrad in COVID, but people were just not doing any sort of outside work. I mean, I was doing work experience at Sussex FA. I was doing match reports on a weekly basis, going to games. I was doing all this stuff, and people were just expecting just to get these things given to them. And I think that one thing I'll say to anyone listening who wants advice is, one advice I would give is that don't just expect it to come to you. I mean, some people just weren't going to lectures. They weren't doing the work outside of uni. You know, I don't know how they expected to get a job, and none of them have got any work that I've seen after. Well, actually, one person got lucky with it, but most people I know that didn't do the work, they're not doing anything now. And I think that is such a waste. I think that you have to, if you want to. I know I got the accreditation, and I think that really has come through my hard work in the podcast and doing the articles. I think that I would never have got that if I had just sat there and just thought it's all going to come be spoon fed to me. So I think that's one thing I would advise is that you have to just put the work in. I think it goes for any career really, but I think particularly journalism, you have to things like that and acting, you have to put the work in.
Yeah, such competitive space, isn't it? And we've seen that. And some of the people you've mentioned there, and maybe Nat's not the greatest example, but you mentioned Ash at the NFL, who her Huddle podcast has just been nominated, I think today, in the Sports Podcast Award, alongside some, the Around the NFL guys, the Neil Reynolds, Jeff Reinbold one. So it sort of shows got to be a bit of a self-starter as well. Hopefully we'll get there one day, but I think we're a long way off, but we might get there.
What do you mean, you competing for the prize?
Yeah, hopefully it'd be good. It'd be nice just to see it up there. Good teams and good teams, people will say. But yeah, like I say, anybody, I'm sure Andy won't mind, if anybody is thinking about it or wants to, and I'm sure Andy would be more than willing to kind of share any tips, any advice we've got his handle on the screen there. So yeah, I'm sure Andy won't mind if you dropped him a message and got in touch to be able to share anything. Speaking of, we'll move on with our NFL chat. Let's talk some Miami Dolphins. Very exciting season so far. Huge game coming up on Sunday on Christmas Eve, and it's a cracker. Dolphins, I don't know if it's fair to say the knock on them at the minute is they beat up on the bad teams, not really got kind of that signature win at the minute. There's an opportunity to do that on the Sunday. Kind of how are you feeling about where the Dolphins are so far, Andy?
I think you put the nail on the head, to be honest with you. I think you're exactly right. That's going to be a constant for me. I'm quite a pessimistic Dolphins fan, I'd say. I think there's a lot of Dolphins fans that are a lot more optimistic than myself, but I think for me personally, we haven't beaten the team with a winning record since week 3 of last season. And I will say the Cowboys game, I think even if we beat them on Sunday, I think there's still that doubt because the Cowboys are basically the Dolphins of the NFC. They can't be good teams either. Apart from the Eagles last weekend, who were in a rut themselves, they lost to the 49ers heavily. They lost to the Bills on the weekend. So I think that, especially at home as well, I don't think we should take that game as the defining game to address the media. I think the game the following Sunday is a big one for me, especially if you beat the Cowboys. That will be a game that we could win to not only get the 1 seed, but also to win the division. That would win the division no matter what happens with the Bills game. So if we can beat both those 2 games, but it's a tough stretch. And for me, I'm glad we're having those games now rather than say week 6 to 9, because that's way too early. I think now having these games just for the playoffs, I think it's a big test because some teams have an easy end to the season, which I think the Eagles may have that fate. So they got the Cowboys, the Giants twice, and the Cardinals. They may have an easier run, and it may. But I think having these 3 tough games will help us. Will get us in the move. But basically, we're playing playoff games already. If you think about it, it's the kind of caliber team we're playing, and the importance of these games is basically for us playoff football now, if you like. So for me, I'm still on the thinking that until we beat good teams, we're not going to do anything. I think if we can beat the Ravens and get that 1 seed for the start of the final week of the season, I think that's when I'll start to get my hopes up. I mean, it's a rare occasion where I think last week we had both Liverpool top of the table and also Dolphins top of the AFC. That was an exciting week, and I really got myself massively hoped up by then. And I think the Titans game brought me down a peg or 2, and also the Man U game on Sunday. But for me, it's I think until we beat those good teams, then I think that's when I ultimately will get excited. But I think there's definitely a lot to be excited about, especially if Hill gets back to health, because if we are a team. Don't get me wrong, we're a team that we have to have everything going on. Everything has to click. We can't have some people like Mahomes lost Hill, won a Super Bowl. Burrow has a bad offensive line, gets a Super Bowl. And Rams lose Odell Beckham and win a Super Bowl. some teams can lose weapons or lose people and still be fine. But I think we're a team that we need everyone to be there to perform well. And I think that as long as we have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle fully healthy, we have A-Chain and Mostert there in the backfield, both healthy. Obviously, there's no Phillips now, but if you can have, Jalen Ramsey, David Howard, Javon Holland, Bradley Chubb, Christian Wilkins, all fully healthy, then we've got a chance. And I'm definitely of the opinion that we can beat anyone. Any given Sunday, we can beat any team on our day. We've got the players, we've got the speed, we've got the players to do it. I think we've got the coaching. I'd rather Flores there. I think he's a better coach. But with Daniels, it's, I think, a better fit for our team. But I think everything's there. It's just a matter of beating us good teams. I do think that if we could beat Ravens, I think that could set off a run of beating good teams. I think that it's almost like ripping off the plaster. I think once you get that one team beaten, especially the Ravens, if we can beat the Ravens in Baltimore in week 17, I think that could be a win that could help us then win further games against good teams. I think that will be the confidence boost we need. But yeah, certainly until we do that, I'm definitely not going to get my hopes up. But I still think the Chiefs or Ravens will make it. I think they're right now, they will still beat us in the playoff game because we can't seem to beat them at all, really. So yeah, definitely exciting, but definitely a bit of trepidation going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And what do you think? What do you think is the bit that's going to make the difference? So I thought certainly from looking at it from my from my perspective, outside of looking in, so to speak, since the return from Germany, so it was the loss against the Chiefs, that defense and Vic Fangio, I think it's probably Jalen Ramsey obviously being fit and being a huge difference maker for that defense on the back end. And it seemed like from a defensive perspective, everything kind of was clicking for Miami. What happened? I suppose what happened to that defense in that last kind of 4.5 minutes against Tennessee to just kind of lose the plot? And it just feels like those are the moments that are going to catch the Dolphins out, because that defense for 4 or 5 games in a row looked incredible.
I think it was complacency. I think you saw the celebrations. They got a bit cocky. I do remember the Titans dance. Shout out to that film. That's the best film, in my opinion, for American football. But they were doing the dance. They were getting cocky. And I think ultimately, we thought the game was won. In my opinion, I think that's what happened because, we've had loads of games where we've been 14 points clear with that time left this season alone. And we've held out games. And, I think that I'm glad it happened now because I think that's given our defense the kick at the backside we need. And just a reminder that no game is won, even if you're 70-20 up. But it's, for me, that's the thing I can put on because, for a lot of the game, that was keeping us in the game. You had the pick six from, I think it was Zach Sealer. The defense was basically bailing us out. I think when we scored that second touchdown to go 14 clear, I thought, phew, we got that out of the way. We've made it hard for ourselves, but we won the game and our defense basically won us that game. But then out of nowhere, it just happened. And, I think that was it. Because I think, we've beaten up teams before. Like we beat the Commanders. We were up loads against them. And I will say we did almost lose our lead against the Patriots. So there's been a couple of times where we've gone a bit complacent. But I think I'm hoping that, now I've not seen Hard Knocks yet this week. I don't know whether it's been out yet or not. But I think I'd love to see how the defense trained this week in the build-up to the game. Because I think that we saw in what happened in the following week, albeit against a worse team offensively, we seem to do a lot better job. And obviously our first shutout since 2020, week 6. So for me, I think that was a lesson we needed. But at the same time, I think, it's big games this year. I mean, we let 34 points up against the Chargers. There was a point in the first half of the Chiefs game where we gave up all the points. But in the second half, we shut them out. So the defense for me, there's almost the first half of the season was all about the offense, but second half of the season was all about the defense. Defense has arguably been playing better than the offense. Really, the second half, since Germany especially, since that second half against the Chiefs started, our defense has been electric. And Jalen Ramsey being back has been huge. He's been a massive addition for us. He's been, I think, what he brings off the field as well. But on the field, he's just been brilliant. And I think that I think might even win us games more than the offense when it comes to these big games, particularly against the Ravens. I think that we've beaten the Ravens twice in last 3 seasons, and I think that I'm hoping that we are a team that gives them problems, and we have got their number. But the Ravens look a different team this year, and I think that'll be the big test for our defense. And I'm hoping we can put it off.
Yeah, I suppose the last question on the Dolphins before we look into the Cowboys game specifically. What is it going to take then just to get over the line in one of these bigger games. And like I say, I don't think it would solve the problem completely if the Dolphins beat the Cowboys, but I think it would help. You go beat another 10-4 team. I'll go beat a 10-4 team in the Cowboys. But what is it? What do you think it is that is going to get them over the line in one of these bigger games?
I think generally it's down to having two good running backs. I think that, most of the games we've lost, A-Chain hasn't been there. I think the game against Bills, he was, and he scored 2 touchdowns in that game. But look at the Chiefs game, you look at the Eagles game, you look at I think he played in the Titans game. But for a lot of these games we lose, I think if we have both A-Chain and Mostert fully healthy, I think that could be because a lot of our problems has been when teams have stopped Hill, have neutralised his effect. Then Waddle this season's been in and out of health, but then it's had to fall to the run game. And a lot of these games where this has happened, we haven't had both A-Chain and Mostert playing. I think that if we can have both of them healthy, I generally think A-Chain's a better back than Mostert, but Mostert's having a better year. I think A-Chain's just overall back. I think pound for pound a better back overall. But I think if we can get both those players healthy, I think that could be our way because I have been a problem in terms of failing to establish a run. And I think that was part of the problem actually against the Titans. We had that possession where we didn't get a first down. I think establishing the run will be big because a lot of these games we have lost, now I think about it, we actually have neglected the run a lot of the time because we're kind of team that where if we go behind, we just tend to just try and go for the big passes because we got the speed to try and neutralize the score. And I think that's something that I think what I'll say is we're a team that we have to have the ball first. We have to have if we win the toss, we need to receive it because if we go down, we start forcing it down the field to Tyreek Hill model where really if we can just get the ball first and just methodically get down the field, run down the clock and stop the other team having the ball possession wise, I think that's where we can win the game because then if we can get an early touchdown, hopefully in the run game, establish a run early, run the clock down, I think that could be where we can win these games. So I think that's not something we've done all year. I think McDaniel almost thinks he's playing Madden at times, which is his one downside, I think, and maybe being a bit too relaxed with the players. But I think that's the way we can win games. And I think ultimately, or maybe even finding a third guy to be in that slot because no one else has really been that third guy. I mean, Chosen Anderson's been really a non-factor. I think Zuma Kana would have been that if he'd stayed healthy. And I still feel that Mike Gesicki, a player I loved, would have been a great slot receiver if he just moved into that rather than tight end. I think he could have been a great option as that third guy to make those short gains. But yeah, I think that's really where, and obviously the offensive line not making mistakes. I think there was a lot of holding calls and false starts on our offensive line. I think Liam Eichenberg was guilty of it a lot in the Titans game. And I think that we've seen a massive improvement from the line, particularly Austin Jackson. I do think losing Connor Williams is huge. I think having a good centre will be a big difference. I think that was a problem against the Titans. Some of his snaps were botched. And I think, that's my 3 really keys to being able to stop the team. And also, I think you have to be wary. We have to really catch, I think, these teams on a bad day, or even when these teams make mistakes or turnovers like an interception or a fumble, we have to capitalize on it now because these teams are going to make, if you don't make the most of those chances that they give you, they're going to make you pay. Like against the Ravens, for example, if Lamar Jackson fumbles it or Lamar Jackson throws an interception, we can't allow that to be a drive where you don't score any points. We have to try and get, even if it's just a field goal, even if just that, we have to try and get some points on the mark. And I think, that's been our biggest thing. I think red zone efficiency has also been sometimes a problem, but sometimes great. But that's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be a real exciting finish, and it is a bit of a gauntlet to finish the season for the Dolphins. I think it'd just be a big boost for them if they can just get, like I say, I think two wins and it's done right. 2 wins and if they can get a win on Sunday against the Cowboys, win against the Ravens, then that Bills game becomes not meaningless. Certainly won't be for the Bills, but it does for the Dolphins. And I certainly it'd be a rough one even at home, going into that game in week 18 if the division's on the line. I mean, it'd be a great game from a neutral perspective, of course. If the Bills keep rolling, playing the Dolphins to, for the right to win the AFC East in week 18, it'd be an incredible game. Probably the Sunday Night Football game. But I think there's an opportunity. And I do think the Dolphins will get one of those signature wins and be a very, very dangerous team in the playoffs. Very dangerous.
Well, that Mike's birthday is on that final Sunday of the season. So, I was saying before in a previous podcast earlier today of mine that Liverpool Arsenal on the same day. So I've got both my main. I think actually my main three, if you include the Oilers, I think they're playing 2 a.m. or something on my birthday. But Dolphins and Liverpool both playing on the same day in really important games. The FA Cup against Arsenal, and potentially, if I have to go into that Sunday with both those games meaning selling, I don't think my heart's going to take it. If I'm honest, I think they're both on at the same time for a bit as well. So, and I don't know what time. I got a feeling they may do the talk of it being a Saturday game as well, which would be could happen. But either way, I'm really hoping I can get to that Sunday and not have to worry about both those games meaning something. But should be a cracker for neutrals. If you guess that point at week 18 comes, that's a cracker for neutrals. That should be something like football. That should be the game. And maybe they'll put, I don't know, one of the NFC South games on the Saturday night, maybe to have that division wrapped up. I don't know. But either way, I'm hoping it's not a stressful birthday for me too much.
Well, we don't need to see the NFC South shootout on Sunday Night Football. Nobody bury that game somewhere. Nobody needs to see that. Andy, conscious of where I've kept you for a lot longer than advertised, so apologies. But if you can just give us a shout, we've got the handle on the screen. Give us a shout out of where our listeners and viewers can follow you, and where can we catch you? Your articles, and I know you've got appearing across various different things. So where can we follow you?
So my Twitter handle, as you can see on the bottom, is Andy Davies Sport, and that is Davis with an E. I've got it the Welsh way. That's my main Twitter handle. My Instagram page is just Andy R Davis, but that's more of that's more things I post things, but more about my own non-journalistic stuff on my main page. Story-wise, I can post podcasts, etc. And then otherwise, my TikTok is Andy Talks NFL. I've got about 2,000 followers at the moment. So getting some good numbers on that. Do a lot of content, like winners and losers each week. The occasional comedy sketch, stuff like that. So that's a good one to look at as well. And other than that, I do Premier League articles as well for Vavel. So if you like your football, soccer, do check that out. Do a lot of like match reports or 4 things we learned from this game, etc. So check, and also do a Eurotrips podcast and YouTube channel. So Eurotrips podcast is Eurotrips with a Z rather than an S at the end. That's on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. We've got plenty of vlogs on there. So we've got 25 of the 30 stadiums are on there vlog-wise. The only ones missing are Miami, Atlanta, New England, New York, and there's one other which I've not done, but Pittsburgh, and all the rest should be on there, as well as vlogs at things like Dortmund Stadium, San Siro, Stamford Bridge, the Emirates, Monaco, Venezia, and there's more to come in January and February, potentially in Spain and Germany. So that should be coming as well. There's one in Benfica, which I'm not part of, but it has got a most views. So that's got Sporting Lisbon, Benfica. But yes, if you like those kind of stuff, check it out as well.
Yeah, excellent. Go drop Andy a follow and go check out the content and support Andy. And Andy, it's been great to have you on. Thanks ever so much for coming. You've been a great guest, and good luck for the rest of the season. Not so much Sunday because you're playing my Cowboys, but
you're a Cowboys fan. Okay, interesting. Yeah. That should be. Yeah, I don't know what I'm guessing. You must have been really annoyed after that Bills loss on Sunday, as was I.
I suppose you wanted us to do you a bit of a favour, but I think just it's the manner of it. It's no shame going to Buffalo and getting beat because obviously they're a really, really good team, but just the manner of the defeat. The Cowboys have kind of shown me they learned nothing from going to San Francisco 10 weeks ago and getting demolished. I was hoping to see a bit of progress and a bit of spine and to be competitive in that game. And, if you get the win, great, but show you've progressed, and they didn't, and that sucked. And I think that might be a very similar end to us in the postseason, probably going back to Philadelphia or to San Francisco and something similar happening, I think. Which I think is fair for where we're at the minute.
I will say, if you can, I know the Eagles have got the Giants twice in card. They got a very easy run in, but if you can somehow win that division, I think you guys at home are a different beast to you guys on the road. And I think that if you can go into as a second or third seed, I think that you guys will definitely win a playoff. I think you'll beat the Rams or the Packers or the Seahawks and stuff like that. But I do fear for you when you come against. I think you can beat the Eagles. You've shown it this year. And I think if you're at home, I think you can beat them. But I think home away, I don't think you'll beat the 49ers. I think for me, the 49ers are the best team in the whole of the league. And I think they're my tip to win the whole thing. So, I think to reach your first AFC title game in 25 years, whatever it is, I think that would be an achievement. But at the same time, I think that, for me personally, I've said this for years, that you'll never win anything if Jerry Jones is there. I think he meddles too much. I think he's meddled less this year from what I've seen from the outside looking in. McCarthy has done a better job now. He's in play calling, but I think ultimately, I think you guys ultimately suffer the same fate once again, a defeat to the 49ers.
Yeah, I think it's looking that way. And that loss in week 3 against the Cardinals is what's going to come back and haunt the Cowboys here. We got another favour last night. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Last night from the Seahawks beating the Eagles. And it's going to be that week 3 loss to the Cardinals that's going to stop the Cowboys winning the division. But alas,
exactly like our loss against the Titans. We'll have very similar, potentially similar seasons in that sense.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to go beat New Orleans or Tampa on the road in the wild card round, and then getting hammered in San Francisco or Philadelphia, either one. Sure, but we'll convince ourselves that it'll change. We always do. But Andy, thanks ever so much once again. A pleasure, and hopefully we'll get you back on. We'll get you back on in the future. It'd be great if you do get the chance to get to go to the Super Bowl. As an accredited journalist, it'd be great to catch up with you there at some point. And if not, hopefully we'll see you at one of the London games at some point as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to come back on. I've really enjoyed today. It's been a great episode. Love to come back on.
I appreciate it, Andy. Thanks for your time.
No, thank you as well.
Thanks again to Andy Davies. Great guest. Best luck to his Miami Dolphins for most of the rest of the season. Not this week. Go follow Andy at Andy Davies Sport. Go follow his journey. He's writing a lot of great content he's putting out there. If you're a Dolphins fan, go follow the UK Dolphins podcast that he runs as well. It'd be great to hear from Andy again in the future as his rise in the NFL journalist ranks continues, flying the flag for the guys in the UK. Byron and Joe, welcome. Mid-show, sandwiched in the middle this week of a bumper episode. How are you both doing?
What a delicious sandwich that would be.
I agree.
What more could
the best things about that is the filling. So, take that as a compliment, Paul.
No disrespect to Andy and our guest later on, Simon Winstanley from the UK Steelers podcast. Great guest.
Bread's still good, not dissing bread, but
No disrespect to bread.
I can't believe this is how we're starting this segment. No disrespect to bread. I'm quite hungry now. We're going to dive into the games from week 16. We're going to go over our FourFold, our ATS picks competition, as we always do. Shout out any best bets. And you've got not one, but 2 Fantasy Game Day games to play this week. You've got the usual Sunday Stars one, which will be on Christmas Eve. And then you've got a bonus Christmas Day edition. So we'll shout out anybody from those games that we think is worth a punt in your team as well. And of course, our best bets, because what else are you going to do over Christmas Eve, Christmas Day watching NFL football? I know what I'll be doing. We're going to preview the 2 biggest games of the week. And we're going to start, even though we just talked about it with Andy, with Cowboys Dolphins, because it's a huge game. Cowboys 1.5 point underdogs going to Miami. Over under is 51. This could go one of 2 ways. This could be an absolute shootout, or it could be a dud. Which way are you guys leaning? Byron, kind of what's your thought process on this one?
More towards shootout. Dallas need to bounce back after last week. That was utterly embarrassing. Dolphins need to beat a big team. They've yet to beat a team with a winning record this season. I mentioned it on the review episode yesterday that it's really the fraud bowl, I think was your term for it, but it's the first time ever in NFL history 2 teams with 20 wins combined, or 10 wins each or more, without more than 1 win against a winning team. I can't remember the exact stat now.
It's more than 1 win over a team over 500.
Yeah, Miami haven't beat a team with a winning record. Dallas have got the only one. So it's really a chance for both of them to get that monkey off the back. Dallas, I think, more so need to do it because last week was so embarrassing and so pitiful. You got bullied around, basically. Made a lot of, mistakes that they shouldn't, but ultimately the Bills' O-line just came and pushed them around. And I think Mike McDaniel watched that and said, we have O-line issues, but as much as Tyreek Hill is a game breaker, Jalen Waddle similar, Mike McDaniel loves running the ball. He loves scheming those Raheem Mostert runs open. Devon Achane, it's hard to stop once he gets going. I think it's going to be an interesting game.
And is that the blueprint, do we think? Just follow, obviously Mike McDaniel's a huge success with the Niners, to see what the Niners have done to the Cowboys the last couple of years, particularly earlier on this season. You've just seen what the Bills have done to the Cowboys. Is it just straightforward? That's the blueprint. and that's how to beat the Cowboys.
Kind of feels like it. And I thought Joe Brady's coming to interest in the Bills OC. When it was asked, like, was the plan always to get James Cook this many touches this week or to run the ball this much because Davies got his work as well? And he was like, no, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. And, if there's one coach who I think will just, Shanahan's the same, but like, we'll gladly just go out and do the same thing over and over and over and over while it works. Is that Mike Shanahan coaching tree? They don't care if they have to run the same play 10 times in a row. If you can't stop it, they will just keep doing it. So a big test for Dallas to show that they can step up. And I think the first thing they need to do is just stop the run, which is scary because once you figure that if you can slow down the run, you've got Tyreek running past you and Jalen Waddle running past you. That's why the Dolphins' offense is so good. Because
it feels like Cowboys are going to need to commit more, and they're going to need to run blitz a lot more. I think they're going to need to commit more bodies, which then opens things up on the back end. It's almost pick your poison. I don't know if we touched on it in the review. Maybe it's not so much the preview for that Bills game. Jonathan Hankins missing on that D line is massive for the Cowboys. And there's some hope that he'll be back before the end of the regular season. He should definitely be back from the playoffs with a high ankle sprain that he had. Mazzy Smith he's just not there yet. First round pick from Michigan, he's just not there. It's too easy to push around. He may grow into a force on that line, but it's not now. But the problem is they need him to be now. Yeah. Are
we too negative here, Joe? Are you any positivity?
Well, yeah. I think I don't want to spoil to show the ATS picks later on, but I have picked the Cowboys to win because, on the flip side, we've always said who the Dolphins beat. They haven't beat anyone. We can say if it's one of them things where, Dallas has a weakness in the run game, but it feels like probably all the top teams are not great against the run. There's not many teams who can stop the run. And the Dolphins are one of the best running teams, but they haven't done it against a top tier team. So you would hope that the Cowboys have, it's been talked about so much that they'll be like, okay, that's what we need to stop. Obviously, if Hill's playing, I think obviously that's the scary thing. If you commit too much on the run, I'm sure he's playing this week, and I haven't seen anything it'll be out again. If you commit too much on the run, then you could get picked apart. But then, Tua has had lots of turnover-worthy players this year. I know he's fumbled quite a lot, but he's recovered quite a few, and he has had few interceptions. So is this where we see Bland coming back, where he picks off one or two, and a few fumbles, and then the Cowboys are rolling again? So I think it's going to be a very tight game. And I think what we said earlier, Paul, it is one of the things it's either going to be, and it's fairly obvious, shootout or close game, because I feel like these two teams can be. It feels like who's going to make the most mistakes. Who's going to turn it over the most? It's that kind of game where I can't see one team blowing out the other team. So I'm a bit more optimistic for the Cowboys. And I think it's hugely important for the both teams, because obviously Cowboys for the division, because if they lose this, then that's it. Yeah. Coming back. And for the Dolphins, like if they win this, and then you would say that's probably, that's their division sewn up. But if they lose this, then they're letting the Bills come back into it, and it's going to be a lot tighter for that final game of the season. And I'm guessing they still could get the number one pick as well if Ravens lose to the 49ers and then they beat the Ravens as well.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins win out, they should be there, right?
Yeah, so it's huge for them as well, and also to prove everyone wrong that they've beaten someone decent. But it's always one of the things that you playing the Cowboys at the right time or the wrong time, where they've just had the doors blown off. So it's like, are they going to, hit back with something else themselves? So it's like we've picked it for a reason. It's a super exciting game, and can't wait to see what the outcome is, because I think it's big for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'll spoil it now because it's worth talking about. So Joe has picked the Cowboys plus 1.5 in his ATS picks. Both me and Byron are on the Dolphins minus 1.5. So I've picked mine Dolphins just on the back that with my picks, hopefully I'm just wrong because I've been so bad at them, that therefore the Cowboys win the game. They better not lose by 1 now. That'd be annoying. So I've got it wrong and we lose. That would suck.
I like this is like the Seinfeld episode where George Costanza just does the opposite. Yeah, so whatever you think the result's going to be, just do the opposite and see how it works. Worked out well for him in that episode, I believe. Well, until the end. I can't remember exactly what happened now. But.
Yeah, that's where we're at the minute. A couple of just stats. We'll talk some bets. It's high because the Dolphins lines aren't up yet for any props, just because I guess will Tyreek Hill definitely play or not. But some stats for you that are interesting, and probably definitely do lean to the Dolphins. Cowboys are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 as a road underdog. Not good. Dolphins have had 15 home games under Mike McDaniel now, since he took over. The Dolphins are 10-5 at home against the spread. Pretty good. Also, the under is 10-5 in those home games. So we think of Miami as this, and especially this season, this, points everywhere, and this team that just scores touchdowns for fun. Actually, at home, they've been a big under team, and I really like the under this one. It's 51. Whenever I see that, whenever it starts with a 5, I love the under. And history tells us in the NFL, you with those high spreads, the high lines, points totals that the under's the place to be. I love the under. I think the defenses, the Cowboys have got a point to prove again around and need to stand up, and they got bullied and battered last week. And the Dolphins' defense on the whole has been pretty good, probably since week 9, week 10. They've had a good run of it, so I really love the under here as well. Any other kind of shout outs for bets on this one?
No, I don't have anything as yet. I'll probably like Jake Ferguson. Receptions once are up. I think it'll probably be he's normally around 36 yards, which I always like as an attack player with Ferguson. But it isn't up on DK yet.
Well, Bet365, I trusted Bet365. There was Ferguson 42.5, so a little bit more than usual.
Yeah. I still think he's a good option to play there, though. And Brandon Cook's always good for a touchdown, the way he's been used as of recent. Since about midpoint of the season, he seems to have been getting so much more volume. So,
like that. Ferguson receptions 4.5, which just seems to where it's been settled down as well.
Yeah.
I quite like as well, because I do think they're going to need to probably throw the ball. Prescott over pass attempts. I think it's 36.5.
Yeah.
I quite like that as an option. This week, fantasy game day considerations. So potentially, if you are on the side where you think it's going to be a shootout, who do we think are our best plays from a fantasy game day perspective?
I mean, it's hard to go away. I would say from Raheem Mostert, it's 20 rushing TDs on the season, or 20 total TDs on the season. Not sure if any receiving. Dallas obviously showed a weakness last week. I imagine Mike McDaniel is rubbing his hands together, wanting to exploit it. And Tyreek Hill's had a week off. He needs to hit 152, I believe, give or take, receiving yards a game to get to 2,000 now. If you think, this is going to be a shootout game, if it goes over the 51, it's hard to believe Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert will have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, Mostert quite low priced, really. 5,400. I think he's like the 8th or 9th running back.
What's A-Chan?
A-Chain more. A-Chain's at 6,000.
I think I would say I would rather go A-Chain just because the type of running back he's similar to like a James Cook kind of running back than what most. And I think even last week you mentioned it, Byron, that he had the 2 touchdowns, but he only got 20 yards or something like that. So he's like the goal line one who gets you the touchdowns. But I'm curious if like A-Chain is the one who can hit them big runs and get you more points that way. So it is tricky because I'm also think that Tua is going to throw at least 2 interceptions. I'm going to look into that. I feel like the Cowboys are opportunistic kind of defense, and I feel like it's that kind of game where Tua could, shit the bed a little bit, and everyone starts talking, is he actually a quarterback to win the Super Bowl? So that's my prediction.
You can get plus 375 on 2 interception milestones, so 2 interceptions plus 375. Bet365. Lamb and Hill are the 2 most expensive players this week, both at 8,200. Wild, and we'll get to it, but the most expensive quarterback this week isn't who you think it might be. So as we go through the show, maybe have a think about who that is, and pop quiz question, you can have a guess. And this is for the Sunday game, because again, it's not got the Christmas Day games in it. And then you've got Tua and Dak both at so Dak, clue it's not Dak, 6,800, and Tua at 6,000. Good guess, Joe. I'll leave you in suspense as to whether it is Joe Flacco or not. Tua 6,000, and Prescott, if you're looking for a bounce back game, 6,800 for Dak. Let's move on. We've got the, again, probably the best game of the week headlines, the Christmas Day triple header. Two teams fighting for the number one seed in their respective conferences. One that's pretty much got it sewn up. One that's still got a little bit of work to do. The Baltimore Ravens travel out west on Christmas Day to play the San Francisco 49ers. Niners are 5.5-point favorites. Over-unders 46.5. Joe, where you at with this one? Are you worried about the Ravens, or do you think this is one where the Niners flex the muscles and show that they are the team in the NFL in a potential Super Bowl preview?
I'm in a weird spot that I'm not really bothered either way, because how the results went last week, that if the 49ers do lose this, it's like, doesn't really matter. Obviously, it does. You want to win the rest of the year, and it puts a marker down. But yeah, it's a weird position where it's like we can lose this and still get the number one seed, and the hard thing is getting to the Super Bowl, and then we'll see who they get. So I'm confident that they'll win. I think it depends on some of the injuries. I heard earlier in the week that Armstead and Hargrave could possibly come back, but I've also heard that they might rest them for another week or so. So I think that's huge with how the Ravens run. I think it helps obviously with Keaton Mitchell being out. It stops that big run threat. It's more pounding down, and I think I did see a few interviews with the 49ers defense, like Fred Warren, a few others who weren't happy with how last week went in terms of running games. So I think that's going to be an emphasis. And then it's, can Lamar beat you in the air? And I think with how Ward's playing a few others, I think we'll restrict them. I think their defense will restrict Purdy. I don't think it's going to be a mid-40 game. Again, I think it's going to be somewhere in the 20s for both teams and be tight. 5 points. I lent with the 49ers. Just out of loyalty, but I could see it being a field goal kind of game. And we haven't really talked about Jake Moody since that game against the Browns, and I think he's hit every single one. So is it going to be that kind of game where it just puts that to bed in ahead of the playoffs, where he can hit a game winner? So I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think ultimately it feels more that if the 49ers stop Lamar Jackson, then they've won the game, because I think the 49ers lead's going to put up mid-20s to 30. But it's just, can they stop Lamar, who's been incredible especially even like last week when the stats didn't show it, but still had an awesome game. So I think that's the main point they got to focus on.
I think you're right. Ultimately, we've got the number one rushing offense in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens, putting up 164 yards a game versus the number 3 rushing defense in the NFL. The Niners only allow 89 yards a game on the ground. Ultimately, that's where this game's going to be won or lost. And I know the Ravens have lost Keaton Mitchell, and that's massive, but can they find another way to produce on the ground? Zay Flowers has been quiet last couple of weeks. He was very quiet last week. Can they find something out of him in the passing game? Just enough? Can they get enough Baltimore in the passing game to sustain drives? I think that's where it's at. I'm not sure the Ravens defense is going to be good enough to keep up with kind of the Niners offensive production. I've got Joe and Byron are on the Niners -5.5. I've taken the Ravens. I just think it might end up being a close game, so I'd fully expect the Niners to win, but maybe by 3 or 4, and therefore the Ravens cover. That's where I've gone this week.
I can't believe you haven't mentioned it as well. Lamar versus the NFC.
Lamar
8-0 in his last 8.
Sorry, I forgot my stats.
17-3 in his last 20.
17-3, the Ravens are straight up in the last 20 versus the NFC. I got another one as well. I've got full sheets because I've got them on my screen this week instead of written down on the paper. So I usually have to scramble around the paper to find them, and I've not been doing. Also, an interesting one, Joe. Obviously, the Niners were a juggernaut covering at home against the spread. They'd covered 8 in a row, but they failed to cover the last 3 in a row at home, the Niners. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of one of the reasons why I lent into the Ravens +5.5. Ravens, tend to obviously do well against the NFC. Also, they're 9-1 in their last 10 on the road in the NFC. So it's not as if they're beating up teams in Baltimore. They're doing it on the road and at home versus the NFC as well. But I don't think they've come across a team quite like the San Francisco 49ers during that 20-game span. And Joe, we claiming a Kyle Juszczyk revenge game? Is that what we're doing now? Yeah.
Well, we always got to find one during every game. So that's the only one I could think of. I could top of my head, who was a former Ravens, but I can't think of anyone else on either side. So, yeah, Juice getting 2 touchdowns kind of game.
I know it's on Christmas Day, so not too much out. But any sort of bets we like for Ravens, Niners?
I'll just be honest, not hugely. I think it's going to be a close game. I've picked the Niners, but I'm not sure I'll be betting it as a -5.5.
And is it like is it Debo's month just continue? So you just got to pile some money in, Debo again at 1 or 2 touchdowns, because that feels like that's all he's doing lately.
Yeah, I think he seems to be the favourite side. It'd be interesting to see if that continues through into the postseason. Obviously, certainly Niners high-powered offense and huge. We saw from the Fantasy Gameday winner last week, laced with Niners. Who do we like in this one from a Fantasy Gameday perspective?
I think again, Debo is your kind of easy default there. If Isaiah Likely is a nice price, I think he's proven to be a real good weapon in Mark Andrews' absence. And this revenge game sadly probably won't get any narrative or any push because he won't play. Josh Johnson is still on the Ravens, which stunned me. I was looking to see why didn't the Jets sign him a few weeks ago, and he's been on the Ravens all season. But
isn't Josh Johnson every revenge game every week?
Yeah, you always find one. Yeah. But yeah, Niners NFC Championship legend coming back to haunt them, maybe.
Debo you can get for 6,800. His price is just skyrocketed every single week. Isaiah Likely, 3,200 in the tight end list as well. So on that day, you've got the Chiefs, you've got the Niners, Eagles, Giants. So I think he's like 5th or 6th on the list as well. So potentially some good value there to get some bigger hitters elsewhere. Let's have a look at move on to our FourFold challenge, and we'll cover off the rest of the games relatively quickly this week. So it's going to be a big old episode this week. Reminder, our FourFold challenge, we pick a favourite, an underdog, and over and under each week. We've hit 9 of these FourFolds so far, 9.5. Byron hit a half last week. 9.5 last week. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we're down to it's about 240 quid. I think that's right. Profits, if you'd banged a fiver on every single one of our FourFolds, I mean, just leave 9. But if you did, you'd be up to just around 240 quid. Not bad over the course of 15 weeks, I don't think. And hopefully, if we can hit a couple more, we'll get that up above 300 quid profit on the FourFold. I think we'll take that as a pretty good season with it. I'll start. I'm on the Green Bay Packers, my favourite, -5 against the Carolina Panthers. Packers not looked good the last couple of weeks, but I think this is a good bounce back spot. Panthers got their win, beating the Falcons in that horrible 9-7 game with nobody watching. Really like the Packers in this spot because they need it if they're going to have any chance of kind of getting into the playoffs. -5. Almost thought this is an under as well because all 6 Panthers home games so far this season have hit the under 6-0. But Packers -5. I like this one.
Yeah, I think they'll cover it as well. I didn't take it as my favourite, but I think they'll cover it. I took it as the over, actually. I just think Packers are going to come out throwing the ball. And despite what Atlanta did last week, I don't think the Panthers are slowing too many teams down. I know they are unders heavy, so maybe that doesn't quite add up, but I just think Packers are just going to keep throwing the ball. The last time they went under in Carolina was September 2004. So, which was only 5 games ago, to be fair. But yeah, the last 4 Green Bay and Carolina have all been overs. Got to find something somewhere. Figured I might as well take off my over while we're talking about the game, though. And
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, Packers are a good over team, so they're 7-3 in their last 10 road games. The overs hit, so the Packers including the last 3 in a row. So does that?
Yeah, and as well as being 4-0 overs in their last 4 in Carolina, it's 7-2 all time in Carolina. So they obviously like getting points when they go to the East Coast over there.
Points. Cool. Byron, your favourite is the Buffalo Bills. You've got them. It was just too big a number for me. They're 12-point favourites against the Chargers, who've just sacked the head coach after that debacle against the Raiders. Yeah,
there's a few interesting favourites this week, I thought, but I just think the Bills are in full-on berserker mode. I think there's going to be 30 points. The Chargers, I mean, fair enough that they fully gave up against the Raiders, but you give 63 points to any Raiders team. Well, not any Raiders team. This Raiders team in particular. Aiden O'Connell shouldn't be getting 63 points up against you. What are you going to do to Josh Allen? Like, even if Josh Allen gets 40 points, the Chargers traveling to the East Coast doesn't bode well. New head coach with no experience. Maybe they'll get a bump of motivation, but I don't think they're getting much of a scheme advantage. It's still Eastern stick. I'd be surprised if Keenan Allen bothers to put his body through these last few weeks because he's obviously banged up already. I don't see the Chargers keeping pace, period. I think it's, like I say, it could be a 30-point win.
Just a point on this one, the Chargers won't be travelling east because the Bills are travelling west.
I do this every other week, I think.
Is it just with the LA? Oh, no, he did it with the Florida teams as well.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's how the sheet's set up, but there's nothing wrong with how it's set up. It's my head that just doesn't figure it out correctly.
But
this is how he's winning. Yeah, this is how he's winning, Paul.
Yeah,
basically, he thinks it's the other way around. So if he actually figures it out,
I'm doing the opposite by accident.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be like a home game anyway, with Bills Mafia in town, and
tables being broken everywhere in LA.
Yeah, tables being broken, head coaches being broken. It's just a smash up, yeah.
Dildos flying about everywhere. It's going to be a great time in LA.
Yeah.
I like this with you. I mean, Chargers are 2-5 at home against the spread so far this season. Oddly, though, the Chargers have won 6 straight at home versus the Bills. That does cover 1985 to 2017, though.
Any of those in LA?
No. I'd have all been in San Diego, I guess, yeah.
And surprisingly to me, none of them are in Buffalo.
Yeah, definitely not in Buffalo, yeah. So like that one. Joe, you've gone with the LA Rams on Thursday Night Football. Again, I'm going to get some feedback that no Saints love. Rams are 4-point favourites at home in LA against the Saints. Oh, wait, they've got how many times has that happened before? We've both played at home the same week.
It'd have to be a Thursday, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I don't think you do many Sunday, Mondays.
Thursday, Sunday. Anyway, yeah. On the Rams, Joe, not much more to say. The Saints aren't very good. The Rams are chasing a playoff spot. Yeah,
I feel like I'm playing the heel of the podcast to the one big fan of going in on the Saints. I struggled a bit with the favourites, and I don't really like picking Thursday night, but I just feel like the Rams are going to show. I feel like the Rams are, a level above the Saints, and I think they're going to show because I think it's a huge game for both teams, obviously, because they're both on the same record, and I think whoever loses this is probably saying that the Saints could still win the division, but I feel like if the Rams lose this it'll be a big loss. I think it's huge for them, so I think 4 points. I think they'll win by a touchdown just because I think that defense is starting to show something now, and Stafford with his 2 great wide receivers, I think they'll put some points on, and can Derek Carr keep up?
Yeah, I mean, stat for you, Joe. Rams are 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 at home versus the New Orleans Saints. That covers 2005 to 2019. I'm on the under in this one, so I'll take this off while we're here. I'm on under 46. The Saints are a massive unders team. The Saints, the last 10 Saints road games, unders hit 8-2, and so far this season, in Rams home games, the under is 5-2. So I know they've got a pretty hot offense, but 46 is a lot of points, and I don't think the Saints can particularly score a lot, or will score a lot, and the Rams should be able to cover, and I think it'll hit the under. Under 46. Underdogs, me and Joe, we've gone down the same path. I can't believe the Colts have got a plus number in front of them. This will surely change. Falcons are absolutely trash. They are awful. Colts are +1. Colts are 5-2 against the spread on the road so far this season. Pretty good covering on the road. Falcons are 2-5 against the spread at home so far this season, and they've been favoured in 6 of 7 so far. This will be 7 of 8, and in those games, 6 games as a favourite. They're 1-5 against the spread. Why are the Colts underdogs here? What have I missed something? Is Gardner Minshew injured? Also, that's
to my knowledge. No, I was surprised when I seen +1 here. To be honest,
yeah, that's the answer to the previous question as well. Gardner Minshew is the most expensive quarterback in the Sunday Stars game, which tells you everything. What the Fantasy Gameday guys think about this. They think the Colts are going to absolutely fucking kill them.
I'm stunned.
I'm surprised because isn't the Pittman, is he injured, or because I know obviously he went off?
He's in concussion protocol. I wouldn't expect him to play.
Mm-hmm.
Also, possibly quite lucky to be alive. It was that bad, that hit.
That was awful hit, yeah.
Well, it was Minshew's fault, even though I see what Brady said.
I agree, actually. It was Minshew's fault. He overthrew him by that much.
There's only one person to blame for that, and it was the safety. It's obscene to try and blame a quarterback for... As if Tom Brady never threw a hospital ball as well. Get out of here. I hate the argument. I think it's pathetic.
Terrible hit, though. I agree. But
it was an awful hit, and rightly suspended indefinitely. He's had enough of them in his career. If the Colts fail to cover the spread here against Falcons, it'll be the first time they failed to cover the spread in Atlanta. They are 4-0 against the spread.
There we go.
Ever.
Yeah, I love the Colts in this spot. Like, they're playing really good. They're playing really well at the minute. They're on a roll. Atlanta are so bad.
Yeah. I just wouldn't be stunned though for them to pull out some shitty win. I'm so close to taking this game, and I'm glad I didn't. Now that I see that you guys have took it as well, because that is destined to fail if we all three take it as a can't miss. But yeah, I just have this horrible feeling of Atlanta just squeaking out a 13-12 win or something, and
being a push. We'll get the half.
That'd be a push as well. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 14-12 win.
12-12 tie. We'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take
it. But yeah, I chose a Colts. It was more. I didn't pick many underdogs this week, and it was basically in between them and the Commanders. And I was like, I'm never picking the Commanders, so it has to be the Colts. And I couldn't pick the Cowboys because I feel like you two would have kicked me off. So
I am so worried. Like, I did this the other week, or I had like 9 underdogs on my ATS picks. I've done it again. I think I've got 8. I'm not learning my lesson. Right. Byron, talk to us about the New York Football Giants. So you've got a 12-point favorite in the Buffalo Bills, and you're going for a 12-point underdog in the New York Giants, going the short distance on Christmas Day to take on the Eagles.
Yeah, it's Tommy Cutlet versus that meathead Philadelphia security guard. It's a battle of Italian America. The Eagles are just so flawed that I struggle to give them a 12-point advantage over anybody right now. My one concern is that Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox just have dinner and eat that.
Eat those cutlets.
Well, eat that sparse Giants O-line, and it's Tyrod Taylor for most of the game, which I don't think would be the worst thing, truthfully. But the idea of Tommy Cutlet getting knocked out of this game wouldn't stun me. I just think 12 points is such a lot when the Eagles have shown to be so limited recently. Obviously, this is a bit more of a softer game than they've had recently, though. I will give them that. But their offense is just not firing, and it could take off this week because the Giants aren't the Seahawks, and they're not the Niners, and they're not the Cowboys, and they're not even they're not the Bills who they've beaten recently.
Yeah.
But in the last 6 as road underdogs, the Giants in Philadelphia, they're 0-6, but 5-1 against the spread.
Oh, nice.
1-9 as road underdogs, going a little further back, and 6-4 against the spread. They keep it relatively close when they go to Philly as underdogs. Just kind of that NFC East, we ain't going to lie down to you type angle, I think. So I think they can keep it close. I think 12 points is just too much for, like I say, a flawed Eagles team.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of it for our ATS picks. I think we're going to see maybe I don't think necessarily it's going to be the Eagles bouncing back massively. I think we're just at the end of the, you all, when you get on these bandwagons with people like Tommy DeVito, you also need to know when to get off.
Yeah, the crash comes.
He got pummeled last week against the Saints. They did a number on him. And I think the Eagles, that line's just going to go crazy. It's going to be a bad way. I agree. We might see a lot of Tyrod Taylor. But yeah, 12's a big number, and I was a bit funny about taking it. But I think probably why I've leaned to the Eagles on this one is just because the Eagles overs hit a lot. I think if the over, if we get to the point where there's 43 points,
more points is worse.
More than 12, yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. Over 16-4 in the last 20 Eagles home games.
I do like a couple of the Fantasy Gameday plays here as well. Just realistically, I think we only want to have one cheap throw-in for the Sunday slate with only 3 games, but mentioned Isaiah Likely earlier as potential one of them. I think Jalen Hyatt and or Wan'Dale Robinson. Jalen Hyatt is a burner. Those Eagles cornerbacks are not. So I think there's a good chance that he can get a deep touchdown or a deep reception or 2 that could, be a great hit at what I presume is going to be a low price. And Wan'Dale Robinson's looked pretty good the last few weeks. Coming back from his ACL he suffered last year. He can get open against those linebackers, safeties, corners. He's very shifty. So again, I presume the Giants are going to be throwing the ball more than running the ball, certainly. So I think either of those are good, cheap value players.
Yeah, Jalen Hyatt 2,200. He's had 3 games over 75 receiving yards. If you manage to replicate one of those for £2,200, I think you're in a real good spot there. That can really boost your team, because I think those teams on Christmas Day are going to be heavy Niners, heavy Chiefs potentially as well, heavy Eagles. So yeah, having that differential. Robinson's 3,000, so again relatively cheap as well.
What's AJ Brown? Because I feel like he's come out in the press and he's not happy with how it's gone. So I feel like it's one of them where they'll be like, okay, let's target AJ.
Squeaky wheel.
Yeah, let's just chuck him a loads of balls and he's to make him happy again. And it could be like a 100-yard, 2-touchdown kind of game.
Yeah, 5,800 is relatively cheap. So you've got kind of he's the fourth, because you've got McCaffrey, Debo at the top, Saquon, then AJ Brown. Yeah,
I'd rather pay up for AJ Brown than Saquon, certainly.
Yeah. So yeah, could be a big game there. Over, I've gone Lions Vikings. I think we saw the Lions bounce back last week and put 40 on the Broncos. Think it could be very similar. The Lions have Lions from a road perspective as well. They've been a really good road team under Dan Campbell. That more leans towards the spread, but they're 15-9 against the spread on their own. But they've also scored a lot of points in the road games as well. Lions are 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 versus the Vikings, and the over is 4-1 in those. And in the last 10 Vikings division games at home, in those 10 NFC North games, the over's been 7-3. So I'm liking the Lions to be able to get to kind of late 30s, potentially 40 again. And you're looking for a score or two from the Vikings, I think, in this one.
Yeah, I can't hate it. I think this is one that could be in shootout territory if both offenses get rolling. I think both teams, their best thing is probably their offense. So
yeah, and Nick, we see Nick Mullins. Crazy things can happen with Nick Mullins on the field. So
good and bad.
Yeah, that could happen here. And while we saw the Lions defense bounce back last week, I'm not sure it's all the way back. So yeah, Vikings might be able to exploit that a little bit. Yeah, speaking of which, you've got the Lions only give up 23, or to call it 24 points a game. The Vikings only give up 19 points a game. So in theory, it should be an under, but I don't know. I just think this one might explode a bit.
Yeah, you fancy any fantasy game day in this one? Because this is a Sunday early, right?
This is, Sunday early. So I think I'd still ride with Jahmyr Gibbs. I've been critical that he doesn't get enough touches, but he certainly maximizes them. Both Gibbs and Montgomery are 5,200. You could probably get some good value in Chandler, 3,600 coming off a career day last week. And you know,
I'm guessing Madison will be back, but I mean Chandler's shown he's a hotter hand than Madison. It's just whether they utilize it
massively. You've got Jefferson. Jefferson's only 5,800 as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, that feels very low to me.
10 targets last week in the overtime game against Cincinnati for 84 yards. Obviously, it'd be his third game back, and the first one, obviously, he was injured a lot of it. So, maybe he's ready to go. And do they make a real concerted effort to feed Jefferson the ball and kind of have him try and take over a game? So that could be a real good option for Fantasy Game Day. Byron, we've already talked about your over Packers, Panthers. Joe, Jags, Bucks. So question mark whether Lawrence plays. He's in concussion protocol, but Peterson press conference was about an hour before we started recording. He seemed hopeful that he'd come out of it.
Well, that helps. I think that line of move with Lawrence playing, I just think it's more the Jags defense is not being great lately, and I think the Buccaneers can exploit it. And I feel like if the Bucs get up on points, I think the Jags can be a throwing team. If Lawrence doesn't play, they might have a quarterback who doesn't fumble on in the opposition half. So, CJ Beathard has played decent against the Bengals when he came in. So I feel like they've still got the weapons to score some. And being 42, I see this being like a mid-20s, both team kind of game. So just riding the Bucs again.
It's right on the line. Jacksonville score 22 points. Jacksonville's offense scores 22. Tampa scores 20 a game. So you're kind of right there if they produce. But yeah, I don't know with this one. So I was looking at this one because I think this will actually be quite a good game as well. But I stayed away from it just on it's not easy when you've got your list in the wrong order. Just on the unders 4 and 2 in the 6 Bucks home game so far. So I kind of stayed away from it for that long, because I think the Bucks have been really good away from home, and that's where particularly their offensive output's been on the road, less so at home so far this season. I mean, I'm on it with the stats today. Under, we've already talked about one of the unders. I'm on Saints Rams under 46. It's just too many points. I don't think the Saints will be able to contribute enough, and I don't see the Rams beating them by 30 or something. So yeah, Byron talks us about Commanders Jets. This is what a rancid game this is.
Yeah, that's kind of the starting point. What a rancid game this is. I presume Sam Howell is going to start again. Probably going to get sacked a lot. Not sure they're going to put too many points on this Jets defense. Not sure this Jets offense is going to put many points on anybody, even though the Commanders defense is pretty putrid. That's kind of my entire reasoning here. I was going to go Rams Saints and follow you on that one, but I just hate putting Thursday nights in my FourFold, truthfully.
Yeah,
I think it's a good shout, to be honest, under 46 there. That was my kind of neutral thought of where I was going to go with it, and I was like, I'm not putting a Thursday night in my FourFold. Washington at New York Jets in history has gone over 3-0, never gone under, so it's due.
That's where we're at. It's due.
It's due. I can't say there's always a science to picking these FourFolds. Sometimes it's just vibes. And, I'm not going to feel too guilty at picking a Zach Wilson versus Sam Howell Brissett combination to go under whatever the number is. If it's even Zach Wilson, if we're still maybe Trevor Siemian again?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm astonished that the Jets are 3-point favorites in this game.
Yeah, I again, spoiler alert for the ATS. I took Commanders on. I think we all took the Commanders. Yeah, we did. I really wanted to put it as my underdog instead of but I just, like Joe, just couldn't bet the Commanders. Can't do it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Not putting the Thursday night in my FourFold, not putting the Commanders on my sheet as a winner.
Yeah. Joe, you've finishing off rounding out your FourFold. You are on the Browns at Texans under 40. Seems like CJ Stroud's going to miss this week as well.
Yeah, that was my main, when it's Flacco versus Keenum. And I think both teams that...
is it?
Yeah. And it feels like they're both, teams, it's their defense is the best side of the ball. And I don't think each team's going to score that many. I think it's going to be similar to how the Texans play the Titans, where it's going to be like 13-13, around that score. I can't see I think the Browns will win, but I don't think they'll, I can't see them scoring 20. I think 20 at most, and I don't see Texans scoring more than like 14. So, yeah. Are you
worried at all, to quote the Browns, the Texans starting quarterback, that it's a revenge game? Case Keenum's words, not mine.
Mm-hmm. Case Keenum revenge game.
Could be Sean Watson on the bench. It could be the hoverboat trade revenge game. Which team actually won?
Texans.
Yep.
That was easier to pick than the game. Yeah, Case Keenum on Monday Night Football, he was on the Manning cast, regarded it as a revenge game. So if he'll say it, I'm certainly leaning into it.
You got to lean into some. I'm not sure if this helps you or hinders. Oh, no, it definitely hinders you. Oh, two stats then, Joe, actually. Probably one from each side for your total. These two teams, when they meet, the under tends to hit. So across 10 meters between the Texans and Browns from 2006 to last year, the unders hit 8 and 2. In those 10 meetings, Texans unders have hit 5 and 2 so far in home games in 2023. However, Browns overs are 6 and 0 on their road games so far this year, and 7 overs in a row on the road for the Browns going into last year.
Because it's normally like 32, isn't it, with the Browns away from home?
It's interesting because all 7 of the lines, all 7 of the total lines for the totals have all been 40 or less. This is 40 as well, and they've hit the over all 7 of those last 7 road games. So it's right in the line where the games have been going over. So take your pick, whichever stat makes you feel better.
Records are there to be broken, Paul.
Very true. Very true. So stats for each side. Byron's leading the way in our FourFold challenge. He's 5 games up on Joe. We'll finish off the episode with our guest, Simon Winstanley from the UK Steelers podcast. We'll hear his picks for the FourFold challenge. But yeah, Byron with a 5-game lead over Joe, and I'm eliminated from contention. I'm 14 games back. It's like a full game a week, isn't it? I've been down by.
It feels like it's worse than that, though.
It does. When you put it out, it makes me feel a little bit better about it.
It's only one game.
Yeah, it's only one game a week.
There's
but
3
I don't
weeks
know.
left, Byron.
It's fair.
I think this might be the best 4 I've put together. I think.
This is 4. Why'd you do it to yourself? This is an 0-4 written all over it, and you're going to cost me with the coat.
I like it. Packers, Colts, Lions, Vikings. Yeah,
they all look good on Wednesday before the week.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And I've done the things putting the Thursday night game in. I was the same as you. I put that in first. I took it out and then I put it back in. So because I had Colts, I was going to go Colts, Falcons under because just the Falcons just dross.
Yeah, that's not bad line either. 44.5.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was like,
but then if Minshew's the number 1 fantasy game day quarterback, which I'm perplexed by, but
but yeah, I was just like, ugh, it's gross. I don't want to double up on that game as well because it's a gross game.
Yeah.
So left it as is. We're gonna go and talk through the rest of the games in our ATS picks competition, and then we'll hand over to myself with Simon Winstanley. No surprise here. We're all on the Rams for Thursday Night Football. Rams -4 against the Saints. There's a lot of similarities, so we'll just touch on the games we've maybe got some differences in. All on the Bengals -2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be Mason Rudolph if Kenny Pickett can't go, which I'm not sure what that's going to do for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, ugly game. Is this it's not a fantasy game day, so never mind.
No,
Hudson's been a sneaky tight end though.
Yeah, so we've got 2 games on Saturday, which is Bengals Steelers, and then this one, Bills Chargers. We're all on Bills -12 for the ATS picks. Have we got Noddy Older on the screen?
We've got 3 guests this week.
We're all in the Cleveland Browns. I think just CJ Stroud not going. Browns -2.5 at the Texans. Browns win this. They've secured the 10 wins. They're in the playoffs.
Did anyone else have to look up if this was a Joe Flacco revenge game? Doesn't it feel like Joe Flacco should have had a spell as a Texans quarterback? I thought he had. He hasn't. Played for Denver, the Jets.
He did.
But, not Houston, who, in my head, this was another revenge game on both sides. But
fair.
No.
No. Byron, you're on the Vikings +3 at home to the Lions. We and Joe are on Lions -3.
Yeah. I have concerns about Jared Goff, truthfully. It's kind of my thing here. It could well be, you took it as the over there, and it could well be a points bonanza. But I just think the way Brian Flores is getting blitzes and how Jared Goff is shown to be turnover happy when facing the blitz, I just worry that Vikings pick him off a couple of times. And I think the Vikings offense is real good as well. Lions defense is sketchy, if improving. And I just think with a 3-point advantage at home, I think they can take it.
Fair. Okay, cool. We're all on the Green Bay Packers -5 at Carolina. I think Carolina have done all their winning now, haven't they? We've got 2 wins. Just
Chicago are hoping so.
Right off there. Yeah. What have we got? Cardinals and Patriots at 3 wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're done now. That little burst. I say burst, it was 3 field goals. We're all on the Colts +1 at Atlanta. Seahawks, Titans, yeah. Seahawks got a huge win against the Eagles. You two have got them to get another big win that'll help them towards playoff push. I think we are on a Titans underdog game here. I think Vrabel is an underdog. I think the Titans have got 1 more win in them. And I think it's here.
We're thinking it's going to be Ryan Tannehill, right?
Oh, yeah. Levis hurt, yeah?
Yeah, hurt his ankle end of last week. I don't necessarily think Ryan Tannehill's a competent professional quarterback. I knew he took the Seahawks as my favourite here, but again, in Tennessee, Vrabel underdog, it was enough to push me off it, but not enough to push me off the Seahawks, I think. I just think they're a better team basically across the board. It wouldn't stun me though with a last blowout win for Derrick Henry, and Nuke Hopkins, I presume, won't be in Tennessee again next year. So it wouldn't surprise me like one last get the lads together, and it's kind of what I was saying for the couple of weeks build up to that Seahawks Eagles game was like I fancied the Seahawks to win because I never know what I'm going to get with them.
Yeah.
So because they're coming, I think they're better than the Titans. Well, they are better than the Titans, but any kind of Seahawks shit in the bed game would never surprise me either. So, yeah, I couldn't put it in my fourfold, but I think they're much a better team. Just football's a funny game.
It is. I just think, the Titans are gonna have one more win. I think, we're gonna get it blown up. I think Vrabel's gonna go. So I think kind of one more kind of big home win, to kind of round things off. Seahawks are pretty bad as a road favorite as well. 3-7 in the last 10 as a road favorite. Titans are 12-7 against the spread as a home underdog with Vrabel as coach. So yeah, I like the Titans here. Joe, you back with us? Excellent. Good. We'll move on. We're all on the Commanders +3 against the Jets, and still can't believe the Jets are favourites in that game. Commanders 5-3 against the spread on the road so far this season, so pretty good covering away from home. This is the first time the Jets have been a home favourite so far this season. They're 3-7 in their last 10 as a home favourite, so signs aren't good. Jags, Bucks. I've gone Jags just on the basis that I think Trevor Lawrence is gonna be okay. It's huge on that. If he isn't, I'd be all over the Bucks, but also the Bucks would be
spread probably moves as well.
Sorry.
The line probably moves as well.
Yeah. The Bucks will be a big favourite. I think it'd be close, but the Bucks home games are quite low scoring, so I fancy this, especially if I'm right and Lawrence does play. I fancy them to be quite low scoring and the Jags to win. Although still love the Bucks to win that division.
Yeah, and the Jags, 8-2 against the spread on the road, 8-2 straight up on the road. The Jags, so they are really strong on the road. I think it's must win for both, I think, and I just fancy Trevor Lawrence is banged up every single week. I just think the Bucks are going to push it through. Should be a good game though if Lawrence plays.
Yeah. Nice one in that late slate. Cardinals, Bears. Yeah, this is not a good one in that late slate. Why is this in the Sunday late game if it's in Chicago?
I have no answer. My only thought on this game, and this isn't relevant to your question, I don't know an answer to that question, is if Carolina aren't done winning and they beat the Packers early, I am not starting a single Chicago Bear if I'm Matt Eberflus. Cardinals cannot lose this game if I'm, give them the win. We want the number one pick. I mean, he's obviously ending his own career by doing it in Chicago, but so he wouldn't do it. I guess when I say if I'm Matt Eberflus, I understand that. But if I'm Ryan Pauls, maybe I'm like, Justin Fields, you are inactive this week. I don't care what the fucking coach says. DJ Moore, have a week off. But I think Bears are just a much better team than Arizona. Arizona traveling to Chicago. That definitely says at. I'm not getting fooled again on this episode. I think it's just a rough way to go. Kyler Murray's obviously been playing okay. Trey McBride's looking like one of the best tight ends in football. But I just think, still don't know how the Bears lost on Sunday. I just think they'll have enough to beat the Cardinals at home, and 4 points is about right, I think.
Yeah.
What's the weather saying this on Christmas Eve, Byron, up where you are?
Good question.
Because obviously
it's going to be cold.
Can't see Murray enjoying that kind of a late night game. I bet most of the players aren't as well.
It's just odd. Like, why would you not have Texans Browns in that window as your late game, maybe? Or I don't. Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about things that don't make sense, why is Patriots Broncos on Sunday Night Football?
It's
You've got Miami Dallas.
So it's not Sunday Night Football in NBC Sunday Night Football program. That is Ravens Niners on Christmas Day.
It's because Christmas.
It's the NFL Network game. Hence why it's Patriots Broncos.
Fair enough. I still hate it, but at least that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Not too bad weather-wise, Chicago. I think it'll be a low as 6 degrees, high of 14. So actually a pretty mild.
Yeah. I hope that's Celsius.
Day. Yeah, Celsius, yeah. for December.
A little bit of rain, it looks like. Wind minor. So, yeah.
I just think this one's going to be real low scoring, and that's why I like the Cardinals plus the 4. Under has hit 6-1 in Cardinals road games so far this season. And also the Bears are terrible as a home favourite. They're 0-3-1 since the start of last year as a home favourite. Doesn't happen that often. And 3-6-1 in the last 10 as a home favourite. Yeah. And the way just kind of they blew the game last week against the Browns. I think it's going to go on. We discussed this one. Me and Byron are just hoping that we get faded on this one. we're both on the Dolphins, and Joe's on the Cowboys. I've taken the Patriots 6.5 because I think they have been playing better. I think they did okay against the Chiefs last week as well.
Yeah, they competed.
And the Broncos, I don't know. I know they're chasing a playoff spot, but they took a really bad beating by the Lions last week. And yeah, I don't know. I just think 6.5 is too many.
Yeah, I think they're just a more competent team was kind of my angle on it. That opportunistic defense was probably looking forward to playing Bailey Zappi. Probably not a game I'm going to bet the line on straight up, though. The spread straight up. So I don't hate picking New England here. I just think Denver have got more about them, truthfully.
Yeah, I think I chose it just because he was in Denver. I think if it was the other way around, I think I may have gone the Patriots, but them having to travel across on Christmas Eve with the altitude and everything. And at least it's the game, Paul, you don't have to watch and you can get to sleep before Father Christmas comes. You know?
Yes, absolutely. I will not be staying up for this one. It would be a great way to start my Christmas Day morning by watching the recording of Patriots Broncos.
Broncos as a favourite versus New England at home are 7-3 against the spread all time, 8-2 straight up.
Nice, cool. Let's move to Christmas Day. We'll finish off with the Christmas Day treble. Me, Joe, you're on the Chiefs with me. Chiefs plus 10. Raiders plus 10 at the Chiefs. I'll get that right. I love the Raiders in the spot. I just think 10's too many for where the Chiefs are at the minute.
Yeah, exactly the same. I just don't think the Chiefs are blowing teams out. And I think with how the Raiders played last week, I still don't think they're an amazing team, but I think it'll be, I wouldn't say a close game, because I feel like the Chiefs are going to win by a touchdown, but 10 points just felt way too many for how that offense is performing. Yeah, and how good the Vegas defense has been as well the last 2 weeks. So
again, really similar to kind of how we talked about the Dolphins earlier, that kind of what we expect from the Chiefs or what we have, seen, again, high-powered offense, all that jazz. Not been the case this year, but in the last 20 home games, the unders hit 15-5 for the Chiefs. So again, the 10 points plus low-scoring games where I've gone to get the Raiders to cover the 10. Eagles-Giants, we've discussed a bit already. I'm on the Eagles. I think we're going to get a bit of a bounce back just because it's on Davies. I think the Giants have got a chance of beating them at MetLife in Week 18, and that could open the path up for the Cowboys potentially. But yeah, I just think Philly kind of needs to put on a bit of a show. It's Christmas Day afternoon. Everybody in Philly's going to be drunk.
Santa's getting belted with snowballs if this isn't out of hand at halftime.
Yeah. And Niners, which we've discussed, Joe and Byron on the Niners to cover the 5.5, and I'm on the Ravens to keep it close. Joe's ahead in this competition, 118 wins so far in the season, 2 ahead of Byron. I'm for a further 6 behind, so 8 might be a bit much of an ask, but we've got 40-odd picks, I guess, 3 lots of 16, 48 picks, so still plenty of time for this one to swing around. Gents, that brings us to the end of our picks and preview segment. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Good show.
I don't know if we mentioned people. We have a Christmas special coming up on Friday as well.
Yeah, I mean, I plug it at the very end, but we can plug it again here. Okay. Do you want to go for it, Byron? Do you want to promote the hell out of that for us?
Oh, you know me, I love doing the promo stuff. Big Christmas draft on Friday. I don't know if we'll be putting it up. I presume we'll go up on Friday. Paul's pretty good at the turnaround.
Go up Friday.
Yeah, night. So us three and my wife, in fact, will be doing our draft picks of best Christmas food, best Christmas chocolate box, best Christmas tradition, best Christmas song, and best Christmas film. So, yeah, should be a fun one, 20 picks. Joe will be starting us off. You are officially on the clock, I guess, because this is the end of this podcast. So, no trading allowed, as I got told when I was trying to trade with Cindy. So,
Joe's pretty much got a nailed on number one, I think, from what he said. He said he knew if he got the number one pick what he was going to take. So I think he's sat ready.
All my scouts saying it's a generational talent. It's a can't miss player who's going to be the next big thing. So, yeah,
brilliant.
So,
cool.
Oh, you got it.
Join us.
Well, looking at your background
draft.
I'm going to guess it's dressing up as Father Christmas as your favorite Christmas tradition.
Specifically, Andy Reid dressing up as Father Christmas.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. That's my guess as what Joe's number one pick is going to be.
Yeah, join us for that. It'll be out on the YouTube the Friday night or late the Friday night. It'll be out on the Spotify quite quickly. We're going to do it Friday afternoon and get it out quite quickly. So there's only a couple of days before Christmas. If you get the chance to listen to it over the Christmas period at some point, it'll probably be about an hour long. It'll, like the other drafts. I mean, not the other drafts that were an hour long, but they were a lot of fun, which is the point. And we're not going to be talking about football at all, or maybe there might be a football related pick. Who knows?
If there's much football, Cindy will be walking off.
Yeah, but opportunity to to talk all the things we love about Christmas in a draft format, bringing the two worlds together. What more do you want? Right, gents, I'll bid you adieu. I'll see you tomorrow for that draft, and we will be handing over now to myself with Simon Winstanley from the UK Steelers podcast, as he has a go at our FourFold challenge.
Cheers.
Transition. Thanks for joining us for the final part of our Week 16 picks and preview episode. We're joined by Simon Winstanley from the UK Steelers podcast. We're going to talk all things Steelers, talk a little bit about the podcast as well. And Simon's going to take part in our FourFold challenge. Just as a reminder that this part of the show is brought to you by Fantasy Gameday, the hottest daily fantasy game here in the UK right now. By British fans, for British fans. Set your lineup of your favourite NFL stars, watch the points roll in, and if you finish in the top 20% of entries that week, you will get yourself a cash prize. Winners have been going away with over £100 the last few weeks. Fantasy Game Day bring you not just one Week 16 game, but two. So we've got the Sunday Stars game for Christmas Eve, and then we've got a special bonus Christmas Day, where we've got the triple header on Christmas Day. So get yourself signed up. If you use our promo code, if you've not played before, cover, all in capital letters, you'll get yourself a free game after your first entry. It's 2 for 1, 2 chances to win some money. Simon, welcome to Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. Great to have you on. Great to have a UK Steelers fan on the show. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I was just listening to your intro there with you. First of all, excellent ad copy. Love it. But great to hear there's a British daily fantasy system. I didn't even know that existed, so I'll have to check that out. That's cool.
Yeah, get yourself signed up. Get it shared with the Steelers community in the UK
with the promo code cover.
Promo code cover, very important, and you'll get that second entry for free. And chance to win money, which is always awesome. I see you were very much ready for Christmas as well with the tree in the background.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is actually just our mini tree in the spare room. The real tree is in the main room. To answer your question though, Paul, how am I doing? Not too great. The Steelers could. Maybe if they didn't drive the season just off the edge of a precipice, I'd be doing a little bit better. But I'll try not to let football get me down.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd have caught you if we'd have been on a few weeks ago, 7-4, 2 home games against the Patriots and Cardinals coming up. What a great place to be!
Rubbing my hands.
Yeah, exactly. Thinking we're going to be 9-4. We've got a run. We'll definitely be in the playoffs. Can we chase the Ravens down for the division? It's been crazy. We're going to get into that because it's been a heck of a season in terms of just everything that's been going on in Pittsburgh. So we'll unravel all of that. But Sam, you are part of the UK Steelers podcast. Really kind of interested to kind of hear all about it. So, I mean, first question, kind of, how did you get involved and how did that UK Steelers podcast start?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, we've been going for about 5 years now. This is our 5th season, season 5, as it says in the logo. And we started, it was from a Facebook group, actually. It was run by our friend called Jason Bowdler. We kind of affectionately call him the Facebook Czar. He basically started this up. He realized there wasn't really a significant, there was sort of little disparate groups, but there wasn't really a significant UK Steelers community. So he started something on Facebook. It was only small. And I was one of the first people in there, along with my co-host Gav and Dave. And after a few years of that, we got close through game threads. It wasn't overnight. It was a number of years that we got talking probably from 2012 through to whenever we started the podcast, 2017, 2018. And and I eventually just got in touch with 2 of the guys on there, Dave and Gav, and was like, hey, I've obviously a big fan of the Around the NFL podcast and many other shows, not just football. I'm kind of inspired to get started with this and give it a go ourselves. And it's so funny because we're on episode 225. We record tonight.
Oh, wow.
We've never missed a week, dude. It's been great. And I think we had the benefit, of course, that a lot of our sort of early ones were during COVID and when COVID started. So it really did feel like we kind of clubbed together, and this was something that we invested a lot of our time and energy into. But I mean, we've just gone from strength to strength from there, really. We got very early on, we got in touch with our friend Rich Cetrone, who works over in LA. He's a stunt. I'm told not to say stuntman, but stunt performer, I think is the word. Yeah. And he got on early, and from about episode 7, he joined us as a co-host, and he has such great insight, man. He's been watching the Steelers since he was a boy. He was in the stadium during the Immaculate Reception.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible, dude. And the stuff that, he knows more about, he's forgotten more about offensive line play than I will ever know. So It's great. And from there, we've just built out. We've got new co-hosts since then, Ketz, Mike, Mark over the years. And on episode 200, we did it was really nice to sort of be able to look back then over like 4 years, and we did some of our best bits, and we got everyone's first appearances on the show and stuff, and just like a celebration. So we're in the afterglow from that now, and the Steelers have let us down, but we continue nonetheless.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, just a shout out for, because we've got Steelers followers and Steelers fans that check out the show. Where can we go find it? Where can we go listen to it, or listen to or watch?
Yeah, sure. It's just listed on the UK Steelers podcast, anywhere you find your podcast. Or if you go to Twitter at UK Steelers Pod, I'm not calling it X yet. I refuse to. The link tree's in there if you want to find it, or there is a Facebook page as well. If you want to go there, there'll be a link tree there as well. UK Steelers Podcast.
Yeah, shout out to one of my good pals follows the Steelers, and when I got in touch with you initially the other week, I kind of pushed him towards it, and he's really enjoyed it. He's gone back and listened to a few, so yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I will say for people listening, we're probably not like I like to say we do the touch of mirth thing, right? That the Around the NFL podcast does. We're half football, half nonsense, so.
That's a good place to be.
Come for the football, stay for the nonsense, maybe.
Yeah, that's a great place to be. Let's see, you've been at it for 5 years, and it's great to hear that story, kind of how it sort of starts from 10 years ago, those initial contacts, and how something builds like that kind of organically. It's really, really cool. And yeah, 200 odd episodes in. I think you guys need to teach us a thing or two. We're about 50 episodes in, so yeah, we'll come to you guys.
You're already ahead of us on video. Don't worry, we'll be coming to you for tips.
We'll come to you guys for some advice for sure, to help take this up another notch. Speaking about taking things up another notch, the Steelers are in a situation now in the season where that kind of needs to happen, and needs to happen quickly. We just mentioned there in the introduction, 7-4 in a great place. While the football hasn't necessarily been pretty, 2 home games against two win teams couldn't have been laid out any better for Pittsburgh. What's gone, from your perspective, what's kind of gone so disastrously wrong the last few weeks to kind of hit that 3-game skid?
I think what everyone wants to point at is, obviously Kenny Pickett goes down. That's a really easy thing. Everyone's lost their quarterback lately, right? And we're seeing a lot of teams right now have success with backup quarterbacks. 2 of them are in our own division, and one of them is Joe Flacco. So, let's just throw that excuse right out of the window immediately. That is where we've seen a stagnation on offense since that injury, though. I think that's clear. I mean, Mitch Trubisky's the kind of guy that is more willing to unleash the ball, throw the ball a bit further downfield, but he's also a guy who is, as a result of that, going to make a lot more mistakes. And Kenny Pickett wasn't that guy this season. For as unexplosive as he was, he wasn't mistake prone. He passed Ben Roethlisberger actually for the most passes consecutively without an interception this year. But in general, Paul, the problem is that the defense has started to sustain injuries. The linebacker core is effectively, it's no one. I mean, we were signing guys that were working, they were on the Amazon practice squad 2 weeks ago, unfortunately. So we're getting absolutely destroyed in coverage over the middle. The only strength of our team right now really is the outside linebackers, Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. And unfortunately, we're finding out that you can't run an entire defense off of that. Safeties are going down like flies. Some of them are going down with season-ending injuries. Others are being suspended for the whole season for horrible hits on Michael Pittman. Minka's down again. So unfortunately, what was great about this team, Paul, was the defense. It wasn't a numbers defense. It wasn't flashy, maybe like Cleveland's is or the Niners or Dallas, but it was a turnover-worthy defense. It pulled in a lot of big plays. It was the reason that we was in games that we had no, because let's be honest, we had no business being 7-4. We won a lot of games we shouldn't have done, and I think ultimately luck's caught up with us. We are probably a team that's closer to what we are now, especially with the injuries, without what makes us special.
Yeah, I think kind of it's so hard just relying on that defense week after week after week, and eventually, it's when you start losing guys and guys go down with with injury, it's just gonna break, isn't it? And
yeah,
and it's tough just to ask TJ Watt and Highsmith to produce turnovers to win games every single week, and that's kind of where they feel where they are at the minute.
It is, yeah. They expect to win a game. Alex Highsmith or TJ Watt really need to take over a game right now. Defensively, and then we need to get a few good plays, lucky plays, punt blocks. We've had 2 in the last 2 weeks. Shout out to Miles Killebrew. It takes a lot for us to win games. We aren't going to be going out there scoring more than 20 points. So, we were winning games by 1 or 2 points that we shouldn't have been winning. Now we're getting blown out in those games. That's the only difference.
Yeah. The Steelers were part of the triple header on Saturday against the Colts. kind of felt like initially that game. So I love, and one of the kind of our taglines of the show, and look, people have made a lot of money over the years. You see the Pittsburgh Steelers as underdogs. You see Mike Tomlin as an underdog. You put everything you've got on it because they will find a way to win that game.
Yeah, prime time versus the Colts. That's a nail for the Steelers.
Yeah. I'm way off that train. I've lost far too much money on the Steelers as underdogs this year. Sadly, I'm off that train. And it feels like this is it. The season is now, because all of a sudden you've got the Bengals, you've got the Seahawks in back-to-back weeks in week 16 and week 17. If the Steelers find a way to win those two games, they're alive in week 18 against the Ravens, potentially spoil some stuff for the Ravens as well. How do the Steelers, they're at home, which obviously is massive, but they play the Bengals on Saturday. How do they find a way to win this game?
Oh, can I be completely honest and say there isn't one? No, I mean, listen, we could beat the Bengals. Of course we can. We beat the Bengals 16-10, I think, earlier this season with Joe Burrow showing up. No, that was after Burrow went down. Sorry,
that was the first Jake Browning start, wasn't it? I think.
So and we've seen Jake Browning, of course, sort of find his feet since then, and has come along fine. I've got to be honest, but I just don't see it. I don't see this team has got the fight in it, to be honest, more than anything. It really does feel like the hearts have gone from this team. You've got your stalwarts, obviously, that are just never going to lose that. Your football players, your Cam Haywards, even TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. These dudes are 100% all the time. But we're starting to see, especially on offense now, which I think is where the frustration's been for years now. Obviously, we got rid of Matt Canada halfway through the season. We had a couple of weeks of explosive running game. We were like, oh my God, Jalen Warren's the best running back in the NFL. But now we've come crashing back down to earth again, and we realize that there's more sort of deeply rooted problems with this offense, I think, that need a full off season to be rooted out. And the question is really who comes with us in that journey. Yeah. We're seeing a lot this week with George Pickens. He's obviously the center of attention. He has been a few times this year. I've expressed some concern over it. Obviously, the problem is with these things, you don't want to be the guy that brings up Antonio Brown. No one wants to be that guy, right? It's a completely different situation. George Pickens isn't Antonio Brown, and that's why you shouldn't bring it up. But of course, it's so easy with the Steelers. Days of our Steelers, the drama, you just know that you're going to have a diva wide receiver that's going to have a problem with not receiving the ball in this offense, and here we are again, wasting talent. So it gets really frustrating.
Yeah, we talked about on our last episode the other day, like the explanation for why he didn't, because there's Jalen Warren run, if Pickens shows any effort to run block, Jalen Warren's got a touchdown, no problem, and he probably walks in as well untouched. Mm-hmm. And the comparison to what happened with Tank Dell, the situations aren't the same. Tank Dell's stuck on the edge of the line being asked to block, which is just a dumb place to put him. Pickens just needs to show some effort. Sure, it's a tough one because clearly very talented, clearly ability wise, but that and it seems to be you had it's AB to Juju Smith-Schuster and his antics and.
Hey, I'll defend Juju to the last. I think Juju's the outlier. Juju's got a bad rap because of AB. And I feel like all Juju ever did was like dance on a few logos, and he liked TikTok a bit too much.
That's fair, yeah.
I'll defend Juju forever.
You mentioned there about kind of for the offense, it's about now thinking, thoughts ahead to who's going to come with you, so to speak, to 2024 and beyond. We raised the question the other day, and it was one I wanted to ask you. You probably won't find a bigger fan of Mike Tomlin than myself. Is his time in Pittsburgh, because I don't think there's any way he gets fired because I think he can do whatever he wants, but as his time in Pittsburgh, is it running out and do people just need to hear a different voice?
Yeah, that's the weird thing, right? Because this team is super talented, as you said, in a lot of areas. Obviously, there's things that need to be corrected. Maybe one of them is QB, but as in general, there's a lot of great players on this team that looking at it on paper, you would think, we don't want to replace these guys. And then you look at the coaching staff and you think Mike Tomlin, like Hall of Fame coach, a guy who has just regularly pulled way more out of his teams than he had any right to do. And you sort of think, like, where is the problem? Like, what is the problem? And that's something we've really struggled with this year, trying to debate these games, trying to find different ways to sort of say the same thing. And it's tough because Mike Tomlin, I almost feel biased when I talk about this because I think so much of my love for the Steelers is connected to Mike Tomlin. Obviously, the time that I came in, and for me to lose Mike Tomlin would be like losing a little part of that, and it's not going to affect anything about the show or about my fandom, but just it's just sad to lose that, and I kind of don't want that to happen. But you do have to acknowledge, I think now, maybe more than any time in the past, that things just feel a little bit stale, and sometimes it's not even anyone's fault. Things happen like this, and a long time passes, and you look at Tom Brady moving on from Bill Belichick and how things are going there, and it's a rushed league. People want results now. We can't suddenly have 10 years where we spend them in the doldrums like the Chicago Bears, hoping for the best. Apologies, Bears fans. I don't know why I chose to dunk on you there. I could have chosen a lot of teams.
I'm a big Cowboys fan. Could have done the same as well. Yeah.
So to answer your question, I don't know. Do you try to look elsewhere? Because I think Tomlin would be the hottest name on the market.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
But is it worth it to try? I think what a lot of Steelers fans get frustrated with is the lack of innovation. It's always hire from within. It's very rare you get kind of a splashy outside hiring with new ideas. And I think maybe that's what we really needs to be forced on. And we've seen that with the Rooneys taking a little bit more control now, forcing the hand with Matt Canada. I think it's not necessarily official, but it sounded, if you listen to the interviews, like it was Rooney's decision to move Matt Canada out of the building. So maybe they're the ones that need to sort of push a little change onto Mike Tomlin and force him to evolve.
Yeah, and I think the thing, because like I say, he's got, again, probably the same as Belichick, and that that seems to be ended in a very sad way. But Tomlin's got as big a leash as anybody in the NFL because of what he's done, what he's achieved, and just how goddamn good of a coach he is. Because he's an incredible coach, he really, really is. And I don't know, and it was interesting to hear Roethlisberger, Big Ben, last week, I think it was, before the game, on his show, on his podcast.
Footballing with Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. And it's interesting, kind of his insight or his view, I guess, from the outside looking in now around. He feels maybe kind of the Steelers way or the Steelers way of doing things is kind of lost a bit. And it feels like, is that going to be really tough for Tomlin to get back? So it feels like they're just in that perennial around 500 or, well, never below 500. Hopefully this might be the year.
This might be the year. Do you know, it would be so
games.
It would be so funny if this is the year, right, though, because last year was the year where we lost so many games on the front end that, we'd been discounted. Nobody was even thinking that we could possibly make it to 500. And then he won every game, about 8 in the row down the stretch, and saved it was almost like what we were rooting for that year.
Yeah.
But now it kind of feels like you want to lose it so that we can get some movement going on this train.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I wouldn't, like I say, I don't think the owners would force him, or I don't think the owners would make the decision exactly, so they're just not like that to fire him.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, not this year.
But yeah, there's just a bit on whether it's this year or next year. If things don't move forward, what do you do? It's tough.
Yeah. And shout out to Ben there. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Shout out to Ben there for throwing the Steelers under the bus 2 weeks after things go downhill. Classic Ben.
Yeah. He's really interesting, because obviously he naturally, of course, talks about the Steelers a lot on that show, and it's interesting because he does have a huge influence on the city.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely.
And
I love Ben, but he's always been a drama queen. Like he loves being the center of attention, but he doesn't know that he does.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know if it's going to be, and I guess from your side, we talked about the game a little bit against Cincinnati and saying there's no hope. I think there's a caveat to it, but it looks like it's going to be Mason Rudolph this week. I mean, is that, from your perspective, is that better than Mitch Trubisky, or where are you with that?
I was calling for it last week on the pod, but to be honest, it was purely from a chaos angle. I don't know that it really improves anything. I mean, Mason Rudolph was a third-round pick a number of years ago, originally viewed as a potential replacement for Ben, and obviously that never really came together. Most famous for being swung at by it with a helmet from Myles Garrett, of course, in that famous altercation, but. He's not the answer, and I don't foresee that we're going to see anything particularly new from him. Does have a sexy deep ball though, so look out for that. Maybe there'll be a deep bomb that connects in this one.
Cool, and it just feels like it feels like this week is they're all must win in the NFL, but this one that's it. If they go to 7 and 8, it's done then, isn't it?
I jokingly coined this last week as a must lose, so we can just stop talking about this team.
Yeah, and it's hard because since we've moved to the 17 playoffs, this is what happens, right? Yes. We have these teams that
hanging around.
Previous format would be gone and done, that are just hanging around and get to week 17 or week 18 still with a shot. So, but for your guys' sake, hopefully they do, and maybe they spoil the Ravens' party in week 18. We shall see. Speaking of which, let's get into our FourFold challenge. So, just a reminder. if you've not listened to us before, our FourFold challenge, we pick a one favourite, one underdog, one over, one under from the slate of the NFL week's games. We put all them up in a little FourFold parlay or FourFold accumulator and try and win some money. So we've been pretty good at them so far. We've hit 9 through 40. This is week 16 through 15 weeks. Pretty good. So it's profitable. So we are up. It's 240 quid now. So if you'd have backed to $5 on every single FourFold that we've picked for the season, you'd be £240 up. Not bad when you're a week before Christmas. Good place to be. Byron cashed a push, so we got half. So it's kind of like 9.5 that we've hit. But we'll just say 9. So we're looking to hit double digits this week. Simon, we've had one guest so far go 4-0. So hopefully you're the second. Let's start by talking through your favourite. So which favourite are you loving this week?
Okay, favourite. I've gone with the Bengals. Favorite, -2 points. They're giving -2 to the Steelers. The Steelers are in complete disarray, Paul. Jake Browning looks good. He looks settled. The Bengals are sniffing the AFC playoff picture despite their 0-4 start in the division. They need to correct that. So, beyond this being a must-win game in the standings, they can't lose this game divisionally. Steelers have proven we can't take advantage of backup quarterbacks. Lock in the Bengals. I don't expect this team's got any fight left in it.
Wow, so we are 6. This is our 16th. You're our 16th guest picker, Simon. You are the first person to go against their own team. So you know what? Credit where credit's due. To just take the bias out.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, you know what? That's what it is. That's a huge part of being successful. So credit to you, Simon, for doing so. And yeah, like I say Bengals will say, I think I'm off the Steelers as underdog train, so I think I'll be there as well with you on the Bengals.
Okay.
And who's your underdog of the week? So I thought this might have been the Steelers naturally, but it can't be.
I want to check on the line on this one. Then you tell me, and this might please you. I've gone Cowboys +1.5 over Miami.
Yeah. So Cowboys +1.5.
Yeah. It seems a little strange. I get it. The Cowboys were blown out by the Bills, but they've looked excellent in weeks prior. But the thing I don't get about this line is that Miami, you could maybe label this the fraud bowl.
Yeah. Which
of these teams is the real fraud? I would go Miami personally. I can give the Cowboys a day off against a strong Bills offense that was looking to beat up on it. The Dolphins, I don't buy. We haven't seen them play well against a good team. We've seen them go under 20 points against some good teams that they have played, the Eagles and the Chiefs. So I don't know. I don't see it happening against this Cowboys defense, which I assume will want to come back swinging.
Yeah, it needs the defense especially needs a bounce back because they just did nothing to adjust against the Bills last week. The Bills kept running it down the throat, and they did nothing to try and change that situation. So offense was poor as well. So it's a huge one, and huge for both teams as well. The Cowboys got another favor from the Seahawks beating the Eagles, so that NFC East race is still alive. Drew Lock, yeah, incredible drive at the end to win it. And then the Dolphins are still in the mix for their division. They've got the Bills snapping at the heels and could still get the number 1 seed if they win out. So yeah, a lot to play for. But yeah, love that. It should be a great one as well in that Sunday late slate, Sunday night, 9:25 kickoff, Christmas Eve. What more do you want?
Yeah, exciting.
Who's your under? So where are we going to see kind of a lack of points during this week? Who's your under?
I'm hoping this is allowed because I've gone with Cowboys and Miami again.
Yeah, absolutely. You can take a spread and a total.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, this is under 51.0 for me. Is that what you've got?
Yeah, it's under 51, spot on, yeah.
Cool. So I like the under for this. The line 51 points feels lofty to me. High scoring team Miami. I understand they're going to have the higher over under every week, but when they've gone up against the best, they've scored 14 against the Chiefs, 17 against the Eagles. So maybe flying a bit too close to the sun on this, but of the lines that I looked at, this was the one that I liked.
Yeah, interestingly, when we think of Miami, we think of kind of this high-powered offense under Mike McDaniel the last 2 years since he's been in. Actually, when you look at them at home, Mike McDaniel's had 15 home games in charge of the Miami Dolphins. The under hits 10-5, so 2/3 of the time the under hit. So good shout, I think there, Simon. That'll be one I'll be backing on Sunday, I think as well.
Go 4-0.
Just with what the history has told us so far. Cool. Last but not least, then, where's your over? Where are the points going to be in Week 16?
If there's one man I believe in Week 16, it's Zach Wilson. Commanders versus Jets, over 37.5 points. Let's go. Flurry in this one.
It is absolutely disgusting, but yes, it is a really low total. So,
well, the way I looked at this was this I think had the same line as the Steelers-Bengals game. But there's some assets in the Steelers-Bengals game now that could lead to some more points being scored. Guys throwing deep balls, mistakes being made, I think. This Commanders-Jets game, to me, take the over. They've just come off a week. The Jets season basically ended last week, right? I mean, repaint those hallway walls from Hard Knocks because you ain't getting to the playoffs. So I think, Zach Wilson coming in as the starter again this week might have some pressure taken off him, play a little bit looser like he did a few weeks ago, sling the ball around a bit. We know that Aaron Rodgers isn't looming over his shoulder anymore, so the Commanders' secondary has been suspect. I was a big fan of Emmanuel Forbes coming out, but it doesn't seem like that's kind of worked out yet this year. So could be, I could see this being like a sneaky high, like mistake scoring fest, defensive scores, that kind of thing.
Commanders have been involved in a fair few shootouts as well so far, as well as just taking some hidings because they don't stop throwing the ball with Sam Howell. He will throw the ball 45 times a game.
Most sack QB in the league, right? Yeah, you'll just drop him back.
But an interesting one. I think the low number helps. But I think that's a good shout. Weird, this one, the Jets are favourites. It's the first time in a long time the Jets have been favourites in a game and in a home game. So an odd one from that perspective. But I like it. I can see that bit more freedom. Zach Wilson's got to play for. He's got 3 games left of the season to try and show he can be a backup. Basically,
get him a job. Get him paid.
So. And he's going to need to show up and show out to make that happen. So just to go over your FourFold, Simon, we've got the Bengals, your favourite, -2 against your Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cowboys, 1.5 point underdogs going to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Your under is also Cowboys, Dolphins, under 51, and your over is Commanders, Jets, over 37.5. Great slate. Best of luck. I think you've got a real good chance, Simon.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope so. 4-0.
Cool. Thanks for coming to join us on Good Teams and Great Teams cover. We appreciate it. Just one last time, give us a shout out where we can come catch the Steelers podcast.
Yeah, sure thing. At UK Steelers Pod on Twitter, UK Steelers Podcast. Anywhere you find your podcast, check us out there. Thanks for having me, Paul. It's been great.
Cool, appreciate it. Thanks for coming, Simon. Have a very Merry Christmas and best of luck for the end of the season. That brings us to the end of our Week 16 picks and preview episode of Good Teams and Great Teams cover. We'll be back. We've got a bonus episode this week that's got nothing to do with NFL. Odd.
They're the best ones.
We're gonna do the best things about Christmas draft between me, Joe, Byron, and a special guest. So come and watch along for that. That'll be on Friday night. So if you get a chance to watch it in the few days before Christmas, please do. The best things about Christmas draft. Make sure you come listen to it on Spotify or watch it on YouTube. It should be fun. But until next time, the Week 16 preview between Christmas and New Year. Have a great one, and we'll catch you to talk through all the things that happen in Week 16.